Chapter 197. Brother Chu, shall we go down? Lin Miu walked up the stage and held on to Chu Huaiyi's arm as she walked down the stage shakily. Chu Huaiyi was in a daze. Although he won, it was a Pyrrhic victory. His physical injuries were nothing compared to his mental injuries. He had accidentally destroyed Jinfang's qi. Since then, he had formed a deep hatred with the Divine Marquis residents. His relationship with Xinxiang seemed even more impossible. Chu Huaiyi didn't even dare to look in Xinxiang's direction. When they returned to the viewing platform, Lin Miu comforted him. It's not your fault, don't feel guilty. That's right, it was that Jinfang who launched a sneak attack first. How shameless. Qin Lei rubbed his palms together and said, this is the Zhe Tian Palace. Who does Jinfang think he is? How dare he try to kill you? Humph, well done. A despicable person like Jinfang should have his qi destroyed and his dragon tendons broken. Let's see if he can still be so arrogant after that. Feng Jixing actually understood Chu Huaiyi the best. He sighed and said, Brother Chu, there's no need to despair. There's always a way out. Maybe there'll be a day when you'll see the light. I hope so. Chu Huaiyi's face was pale as he sat there dejectedly. At this moment, the Emperor Qin Jin personally walked down the viewing platform and comforted him. Jinxing, don't be too sad. Chu Huaiyi accidentally injured Jinfang. It's not his fault. I will order the people from the Spiritual Medicine Division to search for famous doctors and elixirs. They will definitely be able to heal Jinfang's qi. Jinfang's expression was sorrowful. He cupped his fists and said, Thank you, Your Majesty, for your mercy. I thank you on behalf of my son. Qin Jin nodded and said, Come, confer Jinfang the title of Count Shenwei and the title of Eastern Suppression General. He will officially become one of the 13 counts of the empire. This title will be passed down from generation to generation. Also, grant him a luxurious residence in the outskirts of Lanyan City and 200,000 Jinin coins. Thank you, Your Majesty. Jinfang cupped his fists and bowed, but his eyes were filled with sorrow. He said, Come, send the young duke to the Spiritual Medicine Division for treatment. A group of Shenwei battalion soldiers immediately carried Jinfang to receive treatment. Jinfang bowed to the Emperor Qin Jin again and left hurriedly. Zheng Yifan accompanied Zheng Fang on the horse carriage as it traveled along Tongtian Street. Zheng Yifan's face was ashen. Beside him, the 1,000-man commander of the Divine Might Battalion, Sikong Nan, was galloping madly on his horse. He had a look of resentment on his face as he said, Chu Huaiqiang took the opportunity to destroy the young noble's sea of qi. He did it on purpose. Damn it, the emperor bestowed the young noble with so many titles, mansions, and coins, but he didn't give the young noble any military power. Marquis, how can the Divine Marquis residents tolerate such humiliation? Then what do you want? Jin Yifan's eyes shone brightly as he said, Speak. Why don't we? Sikong Nan cupped his fists and said, Why don't we immediately gather the Divine Might Battalion and send a letter to the commanders of the Tian Shu Province, Sangnan Province, and Earth Star Province, asking them to lead their troops and attack the imperial capital. The military strength of the commanders is almost 200,000, but the imperial capital only has 30,000 imperial guards. Even with the addition of the royal guards and the patrolling troops, there are no more than 50,000 people. We can definitely break the city in half a month. Then, Sikong Nan became excited as he spoke, but when he met Zheng Yifan's cold gaze, he immediately trembled and said, Marquis, Did I say something wrong? Zheng Yifan said angrily, Sikong Nan, remember this. I, Zheng Yifan, was conferred the title of Divine Marquis by the current emperor, Qin Jin. I, Zheng Yifan, will forever be the Divine Marquis of the Qin Empire. Whoever wants to replace His Majesty will have to step over my dead body. From now on, if I hear you say such disgraceful words again, don't blame me for escorting you into the imperial city and handing you over to Xianghu of the military police battalion. Marquis, Sikong Nan shuddered and said, I won't dare to do it again. Humph, Zheng Yifan lowered his head and looked at Zheng Fang who was frowning. then looked up at the sky thoughtfully. He sighed, as if he had aged a lot in just a short while. On the viewing platform, the sword duel competition continued until noon. Finally, the final 12 winners were decided, and the final champion would be decided among these 12 people. The next competition would be held in the afternoon, and the emperor would personally entertain the 12 winners at Zetian Palace. At noon, a golden cauldron was set up, filled with exquisite food. Many of the food was presented by the other 11 provinces as tributes, such as fresh fruits from Lingnan, bear paws from Lingdong province, wild cloud deer meat from Tongtian province, swans from Yunzhong province, and 7-core begonia from Qihai city. When the musicians rang the chimes, they also announced the start of the banquet. There were groups of palace maids, and the courtiers were respectfully kneeling at the side, waiting for their orders. Even the pouring of wine was done by someone else. Lin Muyu sat in the middle of Feng Jixing and Chu Huayin, very quiet. He was not very used to this kind of occasion, because the scene in front of him was proof of a saying, the bell rings and the cauldron eats. The life of the emperor's family was really too luxurious. Even if Lin Muyu was not the kind of guardian who helped the world, he still felt a little guilty eating these things. Come. Qin Jin raised his silver cup and said with a smile, "My subjects, please drink this cup of wine. I wish that my subjects will be able to obtain a good ranking in the sword duel competition in the afternoon. Come." The emperor downed his cup in one gulp. Lin Muyu and the others did not dare to be negligent, and they all drank their cups one by one. Xiaoyin. Qin Jin looked at his precious daughter and signaled with his eyes. Qin Yin immediately stood up and raised her cup of wine. She smiled and said, "Xiaoyin once again offers a toast to all of you. I wish that you all will obtain a good result." She was the future successor of the empire, and the 12 people present were all outstanding talents that the empire would have to rely on in the future. This was also the biggest reason why Qin Jin asked his daughter to offer a toast. In reality, Qin Jin was using this opportunity to groom his daughter into an important courtier in the future, and he had put in a lot of effort. After that, Qin Yin offered a toast to everyone. Everyone was overwhelmed by the favor, but when Qin Yin came in front of Lin Muyu, she smiled mischievously and said, "Brother Yu, don't drink so much." Lin Muyu looked at her flushed face in annoyance and said, "You're the one who should drink less. Look at you, you're already a little drunk." Qin Yin giggled, and her bright red face was like the sunset glow. She was indescribably beautiful. She smiled and said, "I'm fine, but you can't get drunk. Otherwise, you'll lose the sword duel tournament in the afternoon. Don't worry, I'll give it my all." Lin Muyu smiled slightly. "Yeah, Xiao Yin wishes that brother Yu takes first place in advance." Qin Yin refilled her cup again and said with a smile, "Come, brother Yu, why don't you accompany Xiao Yin for another drink?" "Yeah." Lin Muyu drank another cup. This action, however, caused Yuan Lian and the other disciples of the aristocratic families to be resentful and unhappy. Qin Yin offered a toast to everyone, but she only drank one more cup with Lin Muyu. She even sat on the ground and chatted happily with him. This kind of affection made them extremely jealous, but they had nothing to say. After all, everyone knew that Lin Muyu was the emperor's godson. It was only natural for him to be so intimate with Qin Yin. In the afternoon, Qin Yin was already tipsy. Her little face was flushed as she sat on the viewing platform. She looked at the practice platform from afar and waited for the next round of sparring. There were only 12 people left. It could be said that all of them were fierce tigers. However, the grouping was a little strange. The 12 people were actually divided into 2 groups of 16 to determine the top 8. However, this also meant that 4 people would have no fights. Very quickly, the grouping was decided. Lin Muyu, Chu Huayin, and Feng Jixing were all lucky to have no fights. Feng Jixing was so happy that he didn't have to fight and directly advanced to the top 8. Lin Muyu was also very happy. It was best that they didn't have to fight. They could conserve their strength. The consumption of battle qi in the morning was already very serious. Their next opponents were all experts, so they had to give it their all. The 4 matches ended very quickly. The 2 brothers, Qin Lei and Qin Yan, won smoothly. In addition, Yuan Lian, Lin Changqing, and Murong Zhou also advanced to the top 8. At this point, there were only 8 names left on the gilded wooden board of the sword contest tournament. They were Feng Jixing, Chu Huayin, Qin Lei, Qin Yan, Lin Muyu, Yuan Lian, Lin Changqing, and Murong Zhou. Lin Changqing and Murong Zhou were all generals of the empire's provinces. They had fought hard in the army when they were young. After so many years, their cultivation had improved, so they also qualified to participate in the sword contest tournament. Very quickly, the eunuch quickly listed the matchups of the top 8. Feng Jixing vs Lin Changqing, Yuan Lian vs Qin Lei, Lin Muyu vs Qin Yan, Murong Zhou vs Chu Huayin. I actually met big brother Lin Muyu. Qin Yan revealed a dispirited expression and said, "How can I be his match? Sigh, I thought that I could meet Lin Changqing or Yuan Lian. At least I could get into the top 4. Qin Lei smiled and said, "Ah Yan, it's already not easy for you to enter the top 8. After all, you are only 18 years old. Everyone here is older than you. Think about it, if you were to cultivate for another 7 to 8 years, who among us would still be your match?" Qin Yan, on the other hand, was delighted. Big brother is right. This kid really didn't know how to be humble at all. The first match, Feng Jixing vs Lin Changqing. Both of them were experts who used the saber. Furthermore, they were also commanders of a region. They had struggled in the army for many years and refined a set of saber arts for killing. It was just that Feng Jixing's saber arts were more skilled and overbearing. Furthermore, his own cultivation also surpassed Lin Changqing's. Hence, after several dozen rounds, Lin Changqing abandoned his saber and admitted defeat. The second match, Yuan Lian vs Qin Lei. The son of the country protecting General Yuan Xia faced off against the eldest son of Prince Yuning. But the disparity in strength between the two was too great. In less than 10 rounds, Yuan Lian sustained injuries and was defeated. The might of Qin Lei's 7-layered god-binding shackles was too tyrannical. Yuan Lian practically adopted defensive tactics from the start of the battle, but he continued to defend until the end of his defeat. The third match, Lin Muyu vs Qin Yan. Even though they were opponents, the relationship between the two was pretty good. Lin Muyu wielded the dragon spirit sword, while Qin Yan wielded the fire serpent spear. The two of them stepped onto the high platform side by side, immediately causing a wave of cheers. Due to Lin Muyu's identity as the emperor's adopted son, he seemed to have already nurtured quite a number of female fans. On the viewing platform, there were at least a dozen or so noble girls waving their delicate arms and shouting, "Lord Lin Muyu, do your best." Pa, Tang Xiaoxi's teacup landed heavily on the table. Her face was unhappy, and her beautiful eyes carried disdain as she said, "Humph, so what if these girls know Mu? To actually cheer for Mu like this. So infuriating," Qin Yin giggled. "Xiao Shi is so petty, Tang Xiaoxi pouted her small mouth, but was unwilling to admit that she was petty. Her twin peaks rose and fell angrily as she said, "Xiao Yin is also bullying me. Don't tell me you're happy that those girls are cheering for Mu." Qin Yin's beautiful eyes were like water. She shook her head and said with a smile, "No, I'll be very happy if they cheer for Big Brother you. But after I ascend the throne, I'll cut the salary of their fathers by 30%. Tang Xiaoxi's face was full of respect. As expected of Xiao Yin. Chapter 198. Clang. Under the violent collision of the dragon spirit sword, Qin Yan almost couldn't hold on to the fire serpent spear. However, he was also considered to have outstanding talent and actually rolled out smoothly. The fire serpent spear transformed into a fire serpent that swallowed towards Lin Muyu's legs. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. He quickly turned and retreated a few steps, stabbing the long sword into the ground with one hand. With a loud shout, he summoned the wall of the bottle gourd. The black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall rose from the ground, directly dispersing Qin Yan's attack. Stepping forward, Lin Muyu quickly slashed out 3 times, causing Qin Yan to continuously retreat. The dragon scale armor on his body also rapidly dissipated. After fighting for over 30 rounds, the speed at which Qin Yan's battle chi increased was already far inferior to Lin Muyu's. Hence, he didn't delay any longer and straightforwardly stabbed the fire serpent spear into the ground. He cupped his fists and said, "Big brother Lin Muyu, I admit defeat. You haven't even used that mysterious power and can already defeat Ah Yen. Ha, thanks for letting me win, Ah Yen." Lin Muyu also cupped his fists and smiled. The mysterious power that Qin Yan spoke of was actually the 7 planets' profound energy. Many people knew that Lin Muyu possessed a mysterious martial art, but no one knew what it was called. Hence, it caused him to become increasingly mysterious. Advanced to the semi-finals. Carrying the dragon spirit sword, Qin Yan walked down the stage shoulder to shoulder with Qin Yan. Looking at his fire serpent spear, it was already filled with densely packed tiny cuts. He couldn't help but say with heartache, "What sword did big brother Lin Muyu use? It's so domineering, it actually chipped my fire serpent spear." This fire serpent spear is a profound grade 2 treasure. Royal father specially found this weapon for me from the western regions. No problem, just find a blacksmith to repair it. Lin Muyu patted his shoulder and consoled. All right. Qin Yan was still somewhat desolate. After all, he was a competitive young man. Especially in such a grand competition like the Sword Duel Assembly, it was truly a pity to lose. At this moment, Chu Huaimian stood up. His body swayed slightly and he frowned, looking slightly uncomfortable. "Old Chu, can you still fight?" Feng Jixing said worriedly, "Your injuries are a little heavy." "It's already bandaged." Chu Huayin gritted his teeth and said, "It's all right. I've prepared for so long for the sword duel conference. I must go up and defeat Murong Zhou. I'll make him laugh at my Imperial Guard for having no one else." All right then." Murong Zhou, 34 years old this year, was the captaincy of the border garrison of Heaven's Pivot Province and the general of the north. He was well versed in spear techniques and was known as the spear god of Heaven's Pivot Province. It was said that he was invincible when it came to riding on horseback. He once defeated 7 northern desert generals in a row, forging a lifetime of glory for him. It seemed that because of these experiences, Murong Zhou became arrogant. He even declared that he would challenge the Imperial Guards in the capital city one by one to see if there was anyone in the capital city who could be his match. Furthermore, Murong Zhou was very talented. Before he was 40, he had already reached Heaven Realm's second heaven. He had reached Heaven Realm's second heaven half a year earlier than Chu Huayin. Chu Huayin stepped onto the martial arts arena step by step. His footsteps were slightly serious. He was indeed heavily injured, but he couldn't lose his dignity as the commander of the Dragon Guards. He held onto his long sword and stood majestically in the wind. He looked like an inviolable divine statue. Murong Zhou held an iron spear in his hand. He raised his eyebrows and smiled. "Chu Huayin, you have proven that you are a very strong person by fighting Xian Fang. However, I, Murong Zhou, am not willing to bully someone who is injured. I think you should just admit defeat. It's not embarrassing to lose to me, Murong Zhou. Otherwise, after you're injured, your skills will be greatly reduced. Do you think you can defeat me?" Chu Huayin's smile was very bright. The premise of an unfair victory is to be able to win. "Do you think you can defeat me? I heard that you really want to challenge the 2 commanders, Qin Lei and Feng Jixing. It just so happens that I have a nickname in the Imperial Guard called Touchstone. If you want to challenge the 2 commanders, then you have to defeat me first. Otherwise, you don't have the right to challenge them. Is that so? In that case, I'll accept your invitation." Just as he finished speaking, Murong Zhou's iron spear suddenly stabbed towards him. Chu Huayin hurriedly raised his long sword to block it. However, Murong Zhou's spear had a soft force. The tip of the spear tilted slightly, causing a flower of blood to bloom on Chu Huayin's shoulder. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The power of the collision caused Chu Huayin to retreat several steps. He quickly abandoned his long sword and turned his palms into fingers. Rays of starlight surrounded him. Just as Murong Zhou approached him with his iron spear, Chu Huayin raised his hand and pointed. His battle energy turned into starlight and shot towards Murong Zhou's forehead. Huh! Murong Zhou was stunned for a moment, and the qi armor between his eyebrows had already been shattered. He hurriedly flipped over and fell to the ground to avoid the second and third attacks. Chu Huaying's star-plucking finger left deep holes on the stone floor. It was evident that Chu Huaying's battle energy was very strong. You've gone too far. Murong Zhou rolled and crawled in a sorry state. Finally, he found an opportunity to jump up and sweep his spear towards Chu Huayin's calf. However, Murong Zhou didn't expect Chu Huayin to be so desperate. He forcefully condensed his battle energy and rooted his calf's center of gravity on the ground. With a bang, he was hit by the spearhead, causing blood to flow out. However, Chu Huayin used the opportunity to injure his calf and his fingers moved like butterflies. Countless starlight condensed from battle energy fell down and directly destroyed Murong Zhou's battle energy armor. In the blink of an eye, Murong Zhou was already covered in injuries. Fortunately, Chu Huayin only used 30% of his strength. Otherwise, this round of star-plucking finger would have been enough to kill Murong Zhou on the spot. Murong Zhou, who was covered in blood, slowly stood up. Just as he was about to attack with his iron spear, he saw Chu Huayin's palm facing him. Chu Huayin didn't move an inch. A bright moon appeared in the air. The moon-print palm could take his life at any moment. I admit defeat. Murong Zhou was dejected. If he didn't admit defeat, he would have to pay with his life. Chu Huayin was already determined to get into the top 4. Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing hurried forward and helped the injured Chu Huayin off the stage. Chu Huayin felt a wave of nausea and dizziness. When he looked into the distance, he realized that Jinxiang's seat was already empty. He couldn't help but feel lonely. Old Chu, you idiot. Do you want to die? Feng Jixing said in a low voice. Chu Huayin smiled and said, His Majesty promised that the top 4 of the sword duel tournament would receive the title of a second-class noble. Our Chu clan is a commoner. I must change this situation so that you won't be looked down upon by anyone in the future. Idiot. Feng Jixing said indifferently. Lin Muyu supported Chu Huayin's shoulder and said, Quickly apply the medicine. Otherwise, your leg might be crippled. Murong Zhou didn't hold back at all. Okay. Immediately, she sat at the side of the stage and took off Chu Huayin's combat boots. His leg was already bruised and bloody. Lin Muyu hurriedly took out some medicine and personally applied it on Chu Huayin. At this point, the top 4 of the sword duel tournament had already been decided. They were Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Qin Lei, and Chu Huayin. They were also the 4 brothers who were the closest to each other. Soon, the eunuch announced the final lineup, Lin Muyu versus Qin Lei, Feng Jixing versus Chu Huayin. Finally, the 4 brothers were going to fight it out. Chu Huayin lay on the cold stone steps and looked at the sky. He smiled and said, This year's sword duel tournament is really brilliant. It's probably the most tragic one in the history of the sword duel tournament, Qin Lei said. It's also the most powerful one. The top 4 are all at level 2 of the Heaven Realm. Such a lineup, the Empire hasn't seen such a thing in hundreds of years. Otherwise, His Majesty wouldn't be so happy. Chu Huayin tilted his head and looked at Feng Jixing. He said, Brother Feng, you got lucky this time. I'm all in the final battle, and I really don't have the strength to fight anymore. Feng Jixing said happily, Doesn't this mean that I, Feng, have directly advanced to the competition for first place? Yes. I'll definitely treat you to a drink later. I'll drink the best wine in Lanyan City. Thanks. Then, the top 4 competition became the battle between Qin Lei and Lin Muyu. Qin Lei propped the thunder cutter blade on the ground and said with a smile, It's our turn. Should we go all out or hold back? Lin Muyu smiled and said, Don't go all out, we can talk about it. All right then, Qin Lei was also a straightforward person. He patted Lin Muyu's shoulder and said with a smile, as the big brother, I know what I'm doing. Don't worry, once the victor is decided, I'll stop. Me too. The two of them went up the stage together. Qin Lei slowly swung his long blade and said with a smile, why don't we decide the victor in one move? How about it? We'll use our strongest move. Whoever wins and who loses will be decided in an instant. This will save us from fighting for too long and exhausting too much battle chi, and giving Feng Jixing, this old fellow, an advantage. I don't want to see him take the Lulong talisman without even fighting a battle. This way, the Imperial Guards will have too much of an advantage. All right. Lin Muyu nodded and said with a smile, then let's decide the victor in one move. All right. The people below the stage could not hear what the people on the stage were saying, but they could see that Lin Muyu and Qin Yan's expressions suddenly became solemn. Furthermore, the battle chi on the two's body rapidly rose, giving people a feeling of almost suffocation. Pa! Pa! Qin Lei raised the lightning split saber horizontally. Bolts of lightning descended from the sky, encircling his surroundings. The lightning split saber even trembled slightly. At the same time, 6 golden god-binding chains encircled his body. Vigorous battle chi continuously spread in all directions, forming an extremely powerful storm that was currently attacking in all directions. Even furious lightning descended from the sky, causing the sky to dim. In an instant, it was as if day had turned into night. Only the flickering light of lightning continuously illuminated the people near the viewing platform. My God! Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful face lost all color as she said, is Big Brother Qin Lei going to risk his life? He wouldn't be thinking of killing you, right? Qin Yin's pair of elegant eyes also revealed worry. I believe that Big Brother Qin Lei will know what to do. Everyone on the viewing platform was already dumbstruck. The starting stance of Qin Lei's move was really too shocking. It was as if he wanted to borrow the might of the heavens to defeat Lin Muyu. On the contrary, Lin Muyu was extremely calm. The golden gourd in her hand slowly rotated, and in the blink of an eye, it became bigger, enveloping her entire body. The dragon spirit sword was unsheathed, and with a shout, a golden light soared into the sky, directly piercing through the dark clouds that Qin Lei had condensed. A ray of heavenly light landed on Lin Muyu's body. The long sword left her hand, and the dragon spirit sword rapidly rotated, bringing with it streams of true dragon essence fire. Not only that, Lin Muyu even opened her left hand. Streams of blood-colored demonic energy danced wildly in her palm, quickly seeping into the blade. This strike carried the profound energy of the 2 glorious demonic dance. Lin Muyu didn't dare to use the 4th glorious dance, because there was no need. If the 2nd glorious dance couldn't defeat Qin Lei, then it could only mean that she wasn't fated to obtain the Gilded Dragon Talisman. And compared to the Gilded Dragon Talisman, Qin Lei's life was obviously more important. Chapter 199. Compared to Qin Lei's lightning that wreaked havoc, Lin Muyu's aura was clearly much gentler. The golden gourd represented the power of life, giving people a sense of peace. However, the demonic power that spread on the blade allowed people to feel the hidden tyranny and forcefulness of Lin Muyu's attack. The two of them were risking their lives right from the start. This made people look forward to the final result even more. On the viewing platform, the noble ladies were sipping tea as they discussed spiritedly, "Wow, Sir Qin Lei is indeed worthy of being the commander of the Imperial Army. This kind of aura is too frightening. I'm afraid that Sir Lin Muyu is going to lose." "No, Sir Lin Muyu will not lose." "Why?" "Because Sir Lin Muyu looks much better than Sir Qin Lei." "Pfft, shameless. Stupid girl, haven't you been staring at Sir Lin Muyu, Chu Huaying, and Feng Jixing?" "Humph, I haven't." "Then why did you see Sir Lin Muyu's appearance just now?" Her breathing was hurried, her face was flushed, and she kept pulling at her clothes at the front of her chest. I'm going to kill you to silence you, stupid girl." On the practice platform, the hard stone slabs were actually peeling off and rising due to the collision of power. It was as if they were going against the law of gravity. Bits of stone and dust were constantly flying up due to the collision of power between Lin Muyu and Qin Lei. However, it was in line with the physical phenomenon of the airflow rotating due to thermal expansion and contraction. Lightning constantly flickered, and the thunder split blade was burned red by the lightning. It had already reached its peak state. Qin Lei's eyes were burning with battle intent. He laughed loudly and said, "You, try the 6th attack of Big Brother's Thunder Split Blade technique." As he spoke, Qin Lei shouted, "Raging thunder rips the heavens." Buzz! The thunder cutter blades seemed to have already transformed into countless streaks of lightning. The one in front of them was definitely not a single thunder cutter blade. Qin Lei's overwhelming attack had actually blasted out tens of thousands of thunder cutter blades. A cold glint flashed across Lin Muyu's eyes. She abruptly clasped her palms together and gathered all the fighting energy in her body. The dragon serpent sword soul let out an angry roar and circled around the blade of the dragon soul sword. The dragon serpent sword soul charged towards the thunder splitter sword with a high-speed spiral of flames. Boom! The two divine weapons collided together, and the sounds of energy explosions rang out incessantly. The dragon spirit sword spun and charged forward, directly shattering the energy of the first lightning split blade. Following that, the second, the third, and so on, it kept on charging forward. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu spread out his arms from afar, with flames lingering around his palms. He controlled the dragon spirit sword to charge forward from a distance. The strong wind blew his cloak, causing it to flutter. He narrowed his eyes, not giving in the slightest to Qin Lei's attack. Awesome! Qin Lei roared as he continued to urge his fighting energy. The sky-rending raging lightning crazily surged. Lin Muyu could not retreat, or else his body would be torn into pieces in an instant. He did not believe that Qin Lei, this battle maniac, had the ability to hold back at the crucial moment. Therefore, he could only win this battle and not lose. The 7 luminaries' profound energy was circulating crazily. When the dragon spirit sword smashed close to 100 thunder splitter sword's sharp beams, its power actually showed some signs of being exhausted. However, Qin Lei's sky-rending raging lightning was still wreaking havoc. The arrow was already on the bowstring and had no choice but to be released. Again. With a light spread of his palms, the 3rd luminary's profound energy crazily surged out of his body. One after another, the celestial bodies of living beings condensed on the martial arts practice stage. Under Lin Muyu's summon, they all attached themselves to the dragon spirit sword from afar. Immediately, the golden light exploded. The dragon spirit sword received the addition of new energy as it rapidly charged towards Qin Lei, directly shattering the energy of dozens of thunder splitter sword. Lin Muyu exerted all of his strength to control the dragon spirit sword through the air. His complexion became rather pale as he secretly prayed, "Big brother Qin Lei, hurry up and lose. Don't force me to use the 4th luminaries. The 4th luminaries are too strong. If I use it, even I would be afraid." Finally, Qin Lei, who was on the martial arts practice stage, suddenly spat out a mouthful of fresh blood with a pft sound. He could not hold on any longer. The 6 god-binding chains on the surface of his body began to scatter one after another, and the radiance of the thunder splitter sword also gradually dimmed. Buzz buzz, the dragon spirit sword charged straight towards Qin Lei's chest without stopping. Just as it was about to pierce through, Lin Muyu suddenly retracted his hand. Immediately, as if it had a mind of its own, the long sword made a somersault in the air and stabbed onto the stone slab in front of Lin Muyu. Ga! Ga! Qin Lei gasped for breath. While wiping the fresh blood from the corner of his mouth, he raised his head to look at Lin Muyu and said with a smile, "Satisfying, satisfying. Just where did this strange strength come from? The 6th strike of my thunder splitter sword technique is extremely tyrannical. I'm confident that even Feng Jixing might not be able to dissolve it unscathed. You, brat, actually forcefully broke through this move of mine. You're really not simple." Lin Muyu's complexion was also pale as she slowly held onto the sword hilt. Her body swayed as she said with a smile, "I've already used all of my strength. If I couldn't receive this move, I'm afraid that I would have been hacked to death by Big Brother Qin Lei." Qin Lei laughed loudly, "I've lost. You go fight for first place with Feng Jixing. Many thanks to Big Brother Qin Lei for letting me win. Pa, I didn't go easy on you. Do you think that I don't want the dragon talisman?" Qin Lei wiped the corner of his mouth again and said with a smile, "Humph, my imperial army only has 7,000 people. If I had the dragon talisman, I would mobilize troops from Cangnan province and expand the imperial army to 17,000 people." Lin Muyu walked forward and held on to Qin Lei's arm. She said with a smile, 7,000 people is already enough. Any more would just be eating rations for free." "That's true." At this time, a eunuch walked onto the uneven martial arts practice stage and said loudly, "Lin Muyu wins. Lord Qin Lei and Lord Chu Huaying are tied for third and fourth place in this sword duel assembly. Next, Lord Feng Jixing and Lord Lin Muyu will fight for first place in this sword duel assembly." Thunderous applause sounded. Everyone was finally going to see a pinnacle showdown. Feng Jixing, the man who was known as the Tiger of Tong Tian Street, and Lin Muyu, the peerless genius of the divine temple that was rarely seen in 100 years. One was the commander of the imperial army and had guarded the imperial capital for almost 7 years. The other had saved Her Highness Qin Yin's life twice with wisdom and bravery. Moreover, he had cultivated a 10th-grade green gourd martial spirit to such a level that it could actually surpass the first-grade god-binding shackles. How powerful was this? The showdown between these two people was most likely what everyone expected. At this time, Qin Yin suddenly stood up and said respectfully, "Imperial Father, Big Brother Yu has been fighting hard and has consumed a lot of his battle chi and stamina. On the other hand, General Feng has been resting for so long. If we were to fight now, it would be a little unfair to Big Brother Yu. I suggest that we give Big Brother Yu some time to rest. After 2 hours, we will let General Feng and Big Brother Yu have a showdown." Qin Jin happily nodded his head and smiled. "Xiao Yin is right. I approve it. The showdown between the two of them will be held 2 hours later." "Thank you, Imperial Father." From afar, Lin Muyu also cast a grateful look at Qin Yin. As for Qin Jin, when he saw that Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Chu Huaying, and Qin Lei were in the top 4, he heaved a sigh of relief. No matter which family the dragon talisman ended up in, these 4 people were all on his side. Lin Chongqing and Murong Zhou might not be loyal to him. Lin Muyu calmly sat on the stone steps and continuously circulated the forging dragon bone remnant scroll to calm the surging battle chi in her body. She had consumed a lot of energy in the head-on fight with Qin Lei. If she were to fight now, she might not be a match for Feng Jixing at his peak. After all, Feng Jixing's self-created wind blade technique was extremely domineering. Even at her peak, she might not be able to deal with it, let alone in a situation where she had consumed a lot of battle chi. Feng Jixing hugged his wind cutter blade and sat beside Lin Muyu with a smile. He said, If you admit defeat, Big Brother Feng will treat you to a month's worth of beef and flour buns. How about it? Deal?" Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes. "Don't give me that. I won't fall for it." Feng Jixing smiled and said, What do you think of Her Highness Yin's appearance? Is she number 1 in the world?" This, Lin Muyu's heart wavered slightly, but she knew that it was Feng Jixing's trick. She calmed her heart and said, Her Highness' appearance is still okay, still not falling for it." Feng Jixing grinned and said, If you were to choose, who would you marry? Her Highness Qin Yin, Princess Shi, and the beauty Chu Yao, who would you choose? Lin Muyu glanced at him and said, "Don't give me that, I won't choose any of them." "Really? That's a pity." Feng Jixing whistled and laid down on the stone steps beside Lin Muyu. He didn't look like a commander of the imperial army at all. Instead, he looked more like a hoodlum. He lowered his voice and laughed, "I think you should marry both Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi." One will be the elder, and the other will be the younger. What do you think? Pfft, Lin Miyu finally laughed and stopped circulating her energy. She said, Big brother Feng, you're so scheming. Ahem, is the first place of this sword duel tournament really that important to you? Of course it's important. Feng Jixing revealed his true colors. The first place will receive a reward of 100,000 Jin Yin coins. The second place will only receive 30,000 Jin Yin coins. It's not even enough to buy a big house in the capital. Chu Huayin, who was cultivating to heal his injuries, opened his eyes and asked, What do you want a big house for? How can I marry without a big house? Feng Jixing's eyes widened. You don't have a wife. Chu Huayin laughed. Feng Jixing pulled out his wind cutter and raised his eyebrows. Chu Huayin, don't say anything else. Fight me one-on-one if you're a man. Chu Huayin grinned and continued to cultivate to heal his injuries. He said, You don't fall for his trick. 3 years ago, in order to get first place in the sword competition, this guy actually invited me to drink wine the day before. He said he wanted to drink rice wine, but in the end, it was all strong alcohol. He even found a few girls from Spring Fragrance Brothel to drink with him. I was defeated by him after I was drunk. Humph, how disgraceful. Lin Miyu held back her laughter. Since that's the case, I definitely can't lose to brother Feng. I also want a big house and a wife. Feng Jixing held back his laughter. It's really unfortunate to know you guys. Chu Huayin pouted. If those girls in the capital knew that you, Feng Jixing, are like this, I'd like to see if they would still be interested in you. Humph. Lin Miyu secretly laughed but didn't say anything. 2 hours passed quickly. It was time for the competition. Lin Miyu silently circulated her battle energy and found that it had recovered to 90%. She could almost fight with Feng Jixing now. Chapter 200. Prepare to start the duel. Qin Jin stood up, brushed the sleeves of his dragon robe, and said in a dignified manner, Feng Jixing, Lin Miyu, I hope that the two of you will adhere to the principle of fair competition and decide the victor. Both of you are the Empire's outstanding talents, stop when necessary, and don't hurt each other, understand? Feng Jixing and Lin Miyu stood on the martial arts practice stage, and gave a military salute to the Emperor at the same time, saying in a deep voice, This general understands. Actually, they understood in their hearts that all of them were martial cultivators, and every single one of them had a heart that was unwilling to admit defeat. Since they were standing on the final martial arts practice stage, then they would surely go all out to determine the victor. Feng Jixing needed this victory in the sword duel tournament to prove his strength as the commander of the imperial army. Lin Miyu also needed a big victory like this to prove her worth in this world, so no one would go easy on her, but they definitely wouldn't fight with their lives on the line like Qin Lei. Lin Miyu and Feng Jixing were both intelligent people, and they respected each other like brothers, so naturally they wouldn't have any killing intent during the duel. Clang! The dragon spirit sword was unsheathed, and the sword's cry was incessant. The dragon serpent sword spirit, which was close to a true dragon, coiled around the long sword, and this was the symbol of a sacred beast's soul lattice. Holding the long sword horizontally, Lin Miyu didn't move, and had the demeanor of a great swordsman. Feng Jixing unhurriedly pulled out the wind cutter, and said with a smile, You, in terms of weapons, you have the upper hand. This dragon spirit sword is a sacred rank, but my wind cutter is only a profound rank, it's too disadvantageous. Lin Miyu smiled and said, Big brother Feng, just swallow this grievance. If worst comes to worst, I'll think of a way to help you reforge your wind cutter saber after the sword duel tournament. I'll raise your wind cutter saber's soul to the saint rank. However, you can't tell anyone about this, or else I'll be in big trouble. Feng Jixing lowered his voice and laughed, You brat, you are indeed well versed in the art of forging weapons. I knew it. Alright, it's a deal. As long as you can reforge the wind cutter saber into a saint rank weapon, it doesn't matter even if big brother Feng loses this sword duel. Come, you, let's do our best and not leave any regrets. Yes. Feng Jixing shouted. The purple electric flame wolf roared incessantly. Bolts of lightning gathered on the saber. In the next moment, it raised the saber and rushed over. An extraordinary saber swept out, Desert Gale. Lin Muyu was already familiar with this move. She stomped on the ground with her combat boots, and the pale golden wall of the gourd appeared. It was very beautiful, and the dragon spirit sword shook slightly, bringing along the purple lightning to meet the attack. Ding! Sparks flew, and no one gained any advantage in this exchange. Both of them swayed on the spot. Feng Jixing was secretly stunned. He did not expect Lin Muyu's advancement to be so rapid. When they first met in the dragon-seeking forest, Feng Jixing was able to completely crush him in terms of strength. This kid was indeed a rare talent that only appeared once in 100 years. Thinking of this, Feng Jixing was inexplicably excited. To have such a rare genius as an opponent, wasn't this a kind of fortune for cultivators? Flame! Feng Jixing suddenly lowered his head, and the purple electric flame wolf on his shoulder quickly opened its mouth. Voila! A scarlet flame shot out. It was a martial soul skill. Naturally, Lin Muyu didn't dare to be negligent. She quickly strengthened the dragon scale wall, and the golden wall of the gourd blocked this attack. Amidst the surging flames, her aura was slightly chaotic. Feng Jixing's cultivation was extraordinary, and the power of his martial soul skill was naturally imaginable. Just when the gourd wall blocked this attack, Feng Jixing suddenly rushed over in the flames. Scarlet hot sand lingered around his saber, and a fierce horizontal slash landed on the wall of the gourd. Hot sand gold. Dang, the gourd wall quickly collapsed by half. This attack of Feng Jixing was really powerful, but Lin Muyu was not inferior. His body spun, and he quickly used the falling star step to catch up with Feng Jixing. The dragon spirit sword whistled, and 3 consecutive slashes slashed at Feng Jixing's back. Good boy, Feng Jixing's heart shook. He didn't think that Lin Muyu's movement skill would be so good. He was already fast enough, but he couldn't catch up to Lin Muyu's speed at all. Falling star step, as the name suggested, was fast. Naturally, it wasn't something that Feng Jixing could compare with. Slashing the wind cutter horizontally, dang dang dang, blocked 3 consecutive slashes from Lin Muyu, but at this moment, Lin Muyu's hand pressed on the hilt of the sword. A bunch of gourd vines quickly rose from the blade, and quickly wrapped around the wind cutter saber. Taking advantage of the momentum, the vines lifted the wind cutter saber up. What? Feng Jixing was stunned. Just when the saber was about to fly out of his hand, he saw Lin Muyu suddenly raise his right leg, and a stream of true dragon elemental fire lingered around his leg, and he brazenly kicked. Feng Jixing was not a person who was afraid of trouble. He immediately jumped up with the saber, and his knee hit Lin Muyu's combat boots. Peng, the cyclone flowed back. Feng Jixing took advantage of the situation, and cleverly grabbed the wind cutter saber and twisted it with all his strength. Suddenly, the gourd vines scattered, and in this way, Lin Muyu's determined attack was actually perfectly resolved. Lin Muyu secretly admired Feng Jixing's ability to adapt in a battle. At this moment, Feng Jixing clenched the saber, and his body was covered with wind blades. He directly swung the violent saber storm, the third style of the wind-walking saber technique. Rustle rustle rustle, the sky was filled with wind blades, and Lin Muyu hurriedly retreated a few steps. She summoned the wall of the gourd again and adopted a defensive strategy. At the same time, she closed her eyes and released her spirit meridian technique. She locked onto Feng Jixing's position, and raised her hand to launch a demonic sound fist. Bam! The demonic sound fist smashed into Feng Jixing's battle armor, but the violent saber storm continued to wreak havoc, violently crashing into the wall of the gourd. Lin Muyu's battle chi was constantly being consumed, and she was beginning to feel that her battle chi was about to run out. What was even worse was that Feng Jixing's figure appeared in the midst of the raging winds. Purple lightning lingered around his wind cutter saber, and the sky darkened. It was as if all the light in the sky had been absorbed by the purple electric flame wolf. Feng Jixing leaped high into the air and suddenly slashed down with his violent thunder saber. I have to block it. Lin Muyu abruptly injected a powerful burst of 7 luminaries' profound energy into her arms. She gripped her sword with both hands and leaped into the air. One celestial body after another appeared around her, and her sword contained the power of the first luminaries as it met the violent thunder saber head-on. Bam! Almost no one could be seen on the drill ground anymore. Everyone could only see the whistling sound of battle chi colliding with each other. The collision directly formed a violent shockwave that swept across the entire observation platform, and many people had already covered their eyes. Buzz buzz, Qin Yin stood in front of her father, and golden god-binding chains slowly appeared around her to block the storm and the rubble. Tang Xiaoxi also summoned her fire fox to block the storm with the power of fire. Chu Chu narrowed his eyes, and he remained calm and collected. The light of a fire cauldron appeared around him, and the storm and rubble naturally couldn't harm him in the slightest. Tang Xiaoxi stuck out her tongue and said with a smile, Commander Feng Jixing and Mumu, these two fellows are simply like two monsters. They're a little too ridiculously strong, right? Chu Chu smiled. Just as Princess, she said, Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu are both rare geniuses that only appear once in 1,000 years. As long as they have enough time, their strength will be unfathomable. Qin Jin narrowed his eyes and asked, Chu, what do you think of these two people? Me? Chu Chu stroked his white beard and smiled. If this old man may be so bold to say, the future of the empire will probably be closely related to these two people. Your Majesty, if we use these two people well, they can bring peace to our great Qin. If we don't use them well, I'm afraid that these two people will become ambitious and ruthless people in this chaotic world. Qin Jin was startled. Commander Feng Jixing can be said to be loyal and devoted to me. He won't become an ambitious and ruthless person in this chaotic world, right? Chu Chu laughed. Your Majesty, you're worrying too much. Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu are both like unpolished jade. Feng Jixing is loyal and courageous, while Lin Muyu is even more sincere. As long as your Majesty doesn't betray these two people, they will definitely not betray your Majesty. If we use these two people well, Great Qin will be able to last for another 1,000 years. Qin Jin felt relieved. He cupped his fists and said, Thank you for your teachings. Chu Chu also cupped his fists and said, Your Majesty, you're too kind. There's no need to be so polite. Otherwise, this old man will tremble in fear and not dare to speak again. Qin Jin smiled faintly. Elder Chu, you're being too polite. How about this, if Elder Chu doesn't mind, you can stay in Zai Tian Palace for a long time. I'll make you the princess's grand tutor, and you'll be in charge of teaching little Yin's cultivation, virtue, and ability. Chu Chu was stunned. Your Majesty, this, Qin Yin hurriedly said with a smile, Chu, you've taught Xiao Shi and you before. Why can't you teach Xiao Yin as well? Then. All right then, Chu Chu said respectfully, then this old man will do as you say. Thank you, Chu. Qin Yin was overjoyed. Her beautiful face was filled with excitement. In reality, no one knew what she was thinking. Once she acknowledged Chu Chu as her master, it would mean that she and Lin Muyu were not only sworn siblings, they would also be fellow disciples. It seemed like their relationship had deepened to another level. At this time, the battle on the training platform had reached its climax. Feng Jixing activated his power, and the purple electric flame wolf's head constellation appeared on his saber. Raging flames surged as he unleashed a secret technique called Howling Wolf Saber Fire. Lin Muyu had also raised her power to the second element, and she unleashed a combination of Thunderclap Frenzy plus 2 Luminaries Demonic Dance. Clang! The Windcutter saber trembled violently, and the Dragon Spirit sword also trembled slightly. The two's power just so happened to reach an equilibrium, but right at this moment, a smile suddenly appeared on Feng Jixing's face. You've lost? Ah. Lin Muyu was stunned, but she was caught off guard by the sudden appearance of a hand on Feng Jixing's shoulder. No, it wasn't a hand, but the purple electric flame wolf's sharp claws. It was a giant claw filled with lightning and flames, and it was the purple electric flame wolf's martial soul's skill, fiery palm pounce. Bang! The fiery palm pounce landed heavily on Lin Muyu's shoulder, shattering her Do Chi armor. At the same time, the force of the blow sent her flying. The two had already collided in midair, and now Lin Muyu was sent flying by the force of the blow. She was already flying out of the edge of the training platform, and according to the rules, landing outside of the training platform would be considered a loss. What a good Feng Jixing, to have such a move up his sleeves. This competition was indeed full of schemes. Chapter 201. But just as Feng Jixing was rejoicing, Lin Muyu, who was in the air, suddenly opened her hand, and her martial soul extended out several gourd vines that quickly wrapped around one of the pillars of the martial arts stage. With a "so" sound, she pulled it back, and her whole body once again rushed up the martial arts stage. Pa! Lin Muyu stood firmly on her feet and smiled. Big brother Feng, don't be too happy just yet. Good lad, again. Feng Jixing laughed and suddenly raised his saber. A terrifying celestial demon constellation appeared behind him. It was the seventh form of the wind saber art, sky-devouring demonic saber. It was this move that defeated the successor of the Seven Seas Tang sect, Tang Bin. Now, Feng Jixing was using the same move. Lin Muyu let out a shout, and the power of the third element surged into her arms. The dragon spirit sword spun rapidly, and she used her peak combat technique to meet Feng Jixing's fierce move, 3 Luminaries Calamity plus True Dragon Essence Fire plus Helix Break. Wang! Lin Muyu controlled the flaming longsword and rushed toward Feng Jixing's sky-devouring demonic saber. But this time, she only dared to use about 40% of the third element's power because she was afraid of injuring Feng Jixing. Of course, Lin Muyu didn't know that Feng Jixing didn't use his full strength either. He only used 50% of the sky-devouring demonic saber's power. Hong! The demonic saber covered in flames descended from the sky and clashed directly with Lin Muyu's longsword. The moment they clashed, they were actually equally matched. The two weapons were glued together, their battle chis restricting each other. It was a stalemate. At this moment, Lin Muyu opened her palm and said, Big brother Feng, look here, Feng Jixing looked over. Whoosh! A dazzling ray of dawn bloomed in Lin Muyu's palm. It was the light of a small golden gourd. It was the green gourd's 7th level ability, Light of Dawn. My eyes. You brat. Feng Jixing hastily covered his eyes. This battle was full of schemes, and this time, it was Lin Muyu who schemed against Feng Jixing. However, just when Lin Muyu was secretly pleased with herself, Feng Jixing suddenly kicked his legs in the air, and 3 consecutive powerful kicks landed on the wall of the gourd. Everyone knew that Feng Jixing's saber technique was invincible, but no one knew that Feng Jixing's leg technique was also so fierce. Immediately, the power of the third brilliance and the heaven-devouring demonic blade exploded in the air. With the addition of the power from Feng Jixing's kick, the two of them quickly separated and landed on both sides of the training platform. While in the air, Lin Muyu wanted to summon the gourd vine, but she couldn't. The wall of the gourd was destroyed by Feng Jixing's unreasonable kick, and she couldn't summon any strength from her martial soul. Pa! Her battle boots landed on the ground, and she slid more than 10 meters away before she came to a stop. Lin Muyu raised her hand and grabbed the dragon spirit sword that was chasing after her. With a shocked expression, she said, I lost just like that? On the other side of the training platform, Feng Jixing also flipped in the air and landed on the ground. He stood firmly, rubbed his eyes, and looked up at the training platform. He said, Tui, this brat Yu is too crafty. My eyes. The scene was very quiet, and everyone who was watching the battle was also stunned. This was because Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing both landed on the ground at almost the same time, and no one could determine who won the finals of the sword duel tournament. The eunuch who announced the results stood there dumbfounded. In the end, he turned around and asked for help. Your Majesty, the two of them landed on the ground at almost the same time. There's no way to determine the outcome. What should we do? Chu laughed heartily. Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, come onto the stage and listen to His Majesty's announcement of the results. Qin Jin had a gratified expression on his face. He stood up and stroked his beard. He laughed heartily at Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu, who were standing on the stage. This competition has really broadened my horizons. The strength of Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu has already been witnessed by everyone. With this result, the two of them are the champions of the sword duel tournament. As for the rewards, the dragon talisman and 200,000 jin coins, the two of you can choose yourselves. Feng Jixing was stunned. He wanted the dragon talisman, but he also wanted the jin coins. For a moment, he was stuck in a dilemma. In the end, Lin Muyu was more straightforward. He didn't lack money, but he lacked an army. Thus, he cupped his fists and said, Your Majesty, I choose the dragon talisman. I'll give the 200,000 jin coins to Big Brother Feng. Feng Jixing nodded in tacit agreement. Qin Jin laughed heartily and said, All right, I hereby announce that the champions of this sword duel tournament are Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing. The third and fourth places are Chu Huaying and Qin Lei. The rest of the contestants will also be rewarded accordingly. The final winner of the dragon talisman is Lin Muyu. Come forward to receive your reward. Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing walked forward together. Qin Jin personally handed out the reward. A dragon-shaped golden dragon talisman was placed in an extremely exquisite box. Qin Jin lifted it up and carefully placed it in Lin Muyu's hands. He reminded her, You must use the dragon talisman carefully. Once you mobilize the army, it means that you are controlling it as the empire's general. You must not kill indiscriminately or defy the empire's laws. Do you understand? Lin Muyu accepted the dragon talisman and nodded heavily. Yes, Your Majesty. Qin Jin then took out a 200,000 gold note and handed it to Feng Jixing. He said, General Feng, as the commander of the Imperial Guards, you are responsible for the long-term stability of the Imperial capital. I hope that you will continue to give your all for the Empire in the future. Feng Jixing nodded with a determined look in his eyes. Your Majesty, this general understands. At this moment, Qin Yin pulled Tang Xiaoxi forward and stopped in front of Lin Muyu. She grinned and said, Congratulations, Big Brother you. You actually managed to obtain the dragon talisman. Tang Xiaoxi giggled. I told you, Mu is as strong as a monster now. Obtaining the dragon talisman is as easy as pie. Lin Muyu blushed. It's not as easy as you make it out to be. I was almost killed by Big Brother Feng's sword. Feng Jixing rubbed his nose and said angrily, Don't say that. I was almost pierced through the chest by your sword. At this moment, Qin Lei and Qin Yan walked over while supporting Chu Huayin. The others also approached them one by one, waiting for the emperor to reward them. Qin Yin smiled and said, Father, didn't you want to give the top four a title? It seemed like Qin Yin had always wanted to give Lin Muyu a title. Now, the opportunity had finally come. Qin Jin nodded lightly. He held the Desolation Sword, which symbolized his status as an emperor, and slowly stepped onto the pothole-filled martial arts arena. He exuded the majesty of an emperor as he said in a clear voice, The Qin Empire is full of talented people. Today, during the sword competition, I can see that the empire is full of talented people. With so many young heroes, our Qin Empire will definitely be strong for generations to come. As he spoke, he paused and said loudly, I hereby appoint Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Qin Lei, and Chu Huayin as the four generals of the wind, rain, thunder, and lightning. They will also be known as the four heroes of Lanyan. The title of the four heroes of Lanyan will accompany them for life. They will be second-class nobles in the empire. I hope that the four of you will charge and break through enemy lines for the Qin Empire in the future and protect our territory. Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and the others all cupped their fists in greeting. Second-class nobles. This was not a small title. In terms of nobility, Tang Xiaoxi, Qin Lei, Qin Yan, and the others were all first-class nobles. Second-class nobles were at least second-class nobles. Although it was only a title, from now on, no one would dare to think that Lin Muyu and Chu Huayin were commoners. Chu Huayin's face revealed a trace of gratification. The Chu family had been commoners for thousands of years. In his generation, there was finally a change. Wind, rain, thunder, and lightning. For heroes of Lanyan, Qin Yin softly repeated the name twice. She smiled and said, "It's really appropriate. Congratulations, brother Yu. From now on, you are one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan. You can finally be on the same level as General Feng and brother Qin Lei." Lin Muyu smiled in gratification. "Yes, I have to thank your majesty for this." As he spoke, he put away the dragon talisman and threw the precious token into his cosmos sack. Qin Jin continued to reward the contestants ranked 5th to 12th. Although these people did not have eye-catching titles like the 4 heroes of Lanyan, the rewards they received were still considerable. Those who held positions in the army had all been promoted by 1 rank. Otherwise, they would have received at least 10,000 Jinin coins as a reward. That was not a small number. "Congratulations, little Lin, you have finally become a noble." Chu Chu smiled and congratulated him. Lin Muyu pursed her lips. "Chu, don't make fun of me. My small status as one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan is just a small trick in front of you." "Oh right, Chu, are you really willing to be the princess tutor?" "I can't disobey your majesty's words," Chu Chu said helplessly. "Originally, I, Chu Chu, had never accepted a disciple in my entire life. Ever since you came, I have been making an exception." "Fine, it doesn't matter if I accept a well-behaved disciple like Her Highness Yin." "Yes, Chu, you have worked hard." Beside him, Feng Jixing put his arm around Lin Muyu's shoulder and laughed. "You, shall we find a place to gather tonight?" "Sure, where?" "Listen to the Rain Tower, your treat." "How about it?" "You have the dragon talisman, so you will be the biggest winner of this sword contest." "Sure." "Heh, sure." Following that was another series of reward ceremonies. The rules of the royal family were very complicated, but Lin Muyu tried to accept it. Here, he was the closest to the sky and also the closest to the peak of this world. He had to be patient, otherwise, he would not be able to show off his skills in the future. The contest finally ended when the sun set. The supervisor of the Zetian Palace held a banquet in the main hall, but Qin Jin did not attend because he was too tired. Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and the rest of the 4 heroes of Lanyan did not attend either. They slipped out of the Zetian Palace under the cover of the night and went straight to Listen to the Rain Tower. "Both Her Highness Yin and Princess She did not come today, so we can drink to our heart's content." Qin Lei laughed. Chu Huayin nodded. "The Zetian Palace has Chu's protection, so I believe there will not be any danger. It is rare for us to have this opportunity, so we must drink until we are drunk tonight." "How about it?" "Sure." That night, they really drank until they were drunk, and they did not go home at all. 4 people wearing the armors of the Empire's senior generals left the Listen to the Rain Tower after they were drunk. It was early in the morning, and the cold wind was blowing, but they did not seem to feel cold at all. They recited poems facing the moonlight. Qin Lei was a boorish man, so he did not know how to recite poems, but Chu Huayin and Feng Jixing were quite knowledgeable, so they recited some poems that were similar to, "Where will we wake up tonight? The willows are by the shore, the wind is at dawn, and the moon is waning." After that, the 4 of them were drunk by the hidden dragon lake of Lanyan City. In the early morning, a few ruffians walked over, and all of them were dumbfounded. Gosh, these people seem to be the experts of today's sword contest. They are known as the 4 heroes of Lanyan. TSK, they are already drunk. Should we touch them? Touch, touch, touch. Therefore, when Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and the rest woke up, all the Jing'an coins on them had been stolen. Fortunately, these ruffians did not dare to be too bold, and only took some Jing'an coins and silver coins. They did not even dare to touch Feng Jixing's gold notes. Otherwise, if the commander of the Imperial Guards was angry, it would be disastrous. Slapping his forehead, Feng Jixing woke up and said in annoyance, "Which bastard dared to steal the money pouch of the tiger of Tongtian Street?" Lin Muyu said, "My few hundred Jing'an coins were also stolen." Chu Huayin laughed. "Money is gone, and people are happy. I am so tired, I am going back to sleep. Go back, everyone. We will meet again next time. Okay." Chapter 202. Back at the Eagle Nest camp, Lin Muyu continued to sleep until noon. Suddenly, she rode up the mountain and said respectfully, "Commander Lin, Princess Xi is seeing off her cousin, Tang Bin, at the north gate of Lanyan City. She asked if you would like to have a meal at the bun shop outside the city." "Got it. I'll be right there." "Yes." She got up. The feeling of being drunk was really uncomfortable. When she washed up, she used the spiritual pulse technique to drive away some of the tiredness. Then, she put on her armor and rode down the mountain. Outside the north gate of Lanyan City, Tang Xiaoxi stood there holding her pony. Beside her was Tang Bin and dozens of guards who seemed to be waiting for Lin Muyu. Amidst the sound of hooves, Tang Xiaoxi looked at Lin Muyu coming down from the Eagle Nest Mountain and couldn't help but smile. "Mu is here." Tang Bin frowned and didn't say anything. When Lin Muyu approached, she cupped her fists and smiled. "Shao Shi, young master Tang Bin." Tang Bin also cupped his fists and smiled. "I didn't have time to congratulate Commander Lin yesterday. It shouldn't be too late to congratulate you today. Congratulations to Commander Lin for getting the dragon talisman." Lin Muyu was startled and smiled. "Thank you, young master Tang Bin. Mu, I'm going to send my cousin 10 miles out of the city. Will you accompany me? There's a famous bun shop 10 miles north of Lanyan City. We'll have lunch there," Tang Xiaoxi said with a smile. "Okay." Everyone got on their horses. Tang Bin seemed a little unhappy. Perhaps he was already unhappy when he saw Tang Xiaoxi being so intimate with Lin Muyu. 10 miles out of the city, there was indeed a bun shop in the distance. Almost all the traveling merchants would stop here to eat a steaming basket of beef buns in the cold winter. Tang Xiaoxi acted as the host and pulled Lin Muyu over. Then, Tang Bin sat opposite them, looking very serious. "Brother, why are you so serious? Who bullied you?" Tang Xiaoxi asked with a smile. Tang Bin couldn't help smiling. "No one can bully your brother. I'm just relieved to see that you are so happy in Lanyan City, Shao Shi." "Is that so? No matter how I look at it, it doesn't look like he's at ease." "Huh, Shao Shi, you think too much." Tang Bin looked up at Lin Muyu's handsome appearance and couldn't help but frown. He asked, "Shao Shi, when did you meet Commander Lin?" "Oh, it was back in Cathaya City." "What's wrong, brother?" "It's nothing. The buns are here. Eat them while they're hot. Eat more. Look at you, you've lost weight. Hee hee, don't girls look better when they're thinner? You still have to be healthy. Come on, eat more." Lin Muyu could sense Tang Bin's hostility towards her, so she didn't say anything else. She just kept eating. After eating 2 baskets of buns, she felt inexplicably satisfied. Cultivators usually ate a lot. There was a law of balance between the heavens and the earth. The strength of cultivators came from their ability to absorb the spiritual energy of the world and convert their physical strength into fighting qi, true qi, and so on. Thus, the stronger Lin Muyu was, the more food she would need. It wasn't like the legend said that experts didn't need to eat at all. On the contrary, the stronger one was, the better their appetite would be. "Commander Lin," Tang Bin looked at Lin Muyu again. He seemed to want to say something, but stopped himself. "What is it, young master Tang Bin?" Lin Muyu smiled slightly. "If you have something to say, just say it." Tang Bin nodded. "There are a total of 3 Tang sect medallions in this world. One is with grandfather, one is with me, and one is with Xiaoxi. However, Xiaoxi's medallion seems to have already been given to you. That. Xiaoxi is not very sensible and doesn't know how precious the Tang sect medallion is. Thus, I, Tang Bin, can only overstep my authority. I hope that Commander Lin can return that Tang sect medallion. Oh. Lin Muyu took out the heavy Tang sect medallion from her universe pouch. What does young Master Tang Bin plan to do with this Tang sect medallion? Bring it back to Seven Seas City. It belongs to Seven Seas City. But this was given to me by Xiaoxi. If I give it to you, won't I be betraying Xiaoxi? Lin Muyu's gaze was filled with provocation. Since Duke Lan gave this Tang sect medallion to Xiaoxi, it means that all the authority of this medallion is given to Xiaoxi. Thus, if I return it, I can only return it to Xiaoxi, not you. Tang Bin raised his eyebrows. Lin Muyu, I hope you understand the value of this Tang sect medallion. Anyone who holds this Tang sect medallion can deploy any army in Seven Seas province with no more than 50,000 soldiers. The authority bestowed by this medallion is even greater than that of the dragon talisman. Do you think I will leave this medallion in the hands of an outsider? Lin Muyu smiled. Then I will return the medallion to Xiaoxi. What if I say no? Tang Bin's gaze was cold. As the princess of Seven Seas, Xiaoxi is insensible enough to give the Tang sect medallion to an unrelated person. She is no longer fit to hold this Tang sect medallion. I have to take it back to Seven Seas province and hand it over to my grandfather. This is our Seven Seas Tang sect's business. Lin Muyu, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't meddle in the Tang sect's business. Lin Muyu was someone who could be persuaded by reason but not cowed by force. She said proudly, Xiaoxi is my friend. If someone wants to steal something from my friend, I won't allow it. Xiaoxi, are you willing to hand over the Tang sect medallion to him? Tang Xiaoxi bit her red lips. She looked at Tang Bin and said, Brother, I will personally go back and hand this Tang sect medallion to my grandfather. I won't trouble you to come and get it. Tang Bin raised his brows and said, Little Shi, you're still young, and there are many things you don't understand. As your older brother, I naturally have to teach you how to interact with others. Some people aren't worthy of being your friend. Lin Muyu suddenly slammed the table and shouted in a low voice, Tang Bin, say it again if you have the guts. Tang Bin suddenly smiled. He spread his arms and said, Lin Muyu, do you want to fight with me? Generally, call our people over. Tell them that Lin Muyu, one of the 4 heroes of Lan and Yen and the 4 generals of wind, rain, thunder, and lightning, is going to fight with me. At the side, General Li quickly blew a whistle. Immediately, the forest in the distance shook, and in the next moment, the sound of iron hooves thundered. At least 1,000 cavalrymen appeared on the official road, each of them wearing a red fox emblem on their shoulders. That was the symbol of the Seven Seas Tang sect. So they brought the army. Lin Muyu spread out her hands and said with a smile, No wonder they are so arrogant. If I had known it would be like this, I would have brought the Imperial Guard over. I wanted to see if the Seven Seas Tang sect's army was as strong as the legends say. Tang Bin smiled faintly. It's a pity that Commander Lin didn't bring her own army. What a pity. However, I still don't want to hand over the Tang sect's iron order. What should I do? Lin Muyu turned around and stood up. She stuffed the Tang sect's iron order into Tang Xiaoxi's palm and said with a smile, Now the iron order belongs to Xiaoxi. Tang Bin, as her brother, are you going to use the army in your hands to seize Xiaoxi's iron order? That is equivalent to seizing the 50,000 soldiers in Seven Seas City that Xiaoxi controls? Tang Bin said coldly, Xiaoxi is my sister. Don't try to sow discord between us. Lin Muyu snorted coldly. Is that so? Tang Bin, you are already the greatest successor of Seven Seas City. Why are you still so greedy? Why are you even determined to obtain Xiaoxi's Tang sect's iron order? Nonsense. Don't slander me. Slander you? Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows. Do you dare to say that you are not worried that Xiaoxi is deeply doted on by Duke Lan and will seize your right of inheritance? Do you dare to say that you are not worried that Xiaoxi will threaten you? You, Tang Bin's face turned red and he was speechless. General Li, who was behind him, had already mounted his horse. He waved his saber and said with a smile, "Young master, there is no need to talk so much with him. Just order the cavalry to charge and take this brat's life. Just say that he stole our Tang sect's iron order. The evidence is conclusive. I believe that His Majesty will have nothing to say." Tang Xiaoxi hurriedly spread her arms in front of Lin Muyu. Her pretty face was full of anger as she shouted, "Li Liani, you bastard who can't tell right from wrong. Are you going to attack me?" Li Liani was stunned. At this moment, the dense sound of horse hooves came from afar. Not long after, a group of Imperial Army cavalry appeared in their field of vision. The leading general pulled out his sword from afar and shouted in a low voice, "An unknown army has entered the territory of Lanyan City. Brothers, prepare for battle." It was none other than one of the Kiliarchs of the Imperial Army and the former Gold Star instructor of the Holy Temple, Zhang Wei. 1,000 Imperial Army soldiers arrived aggressively. Lin Muyu spread his arms and said with a smile, "Lord Zhang Wei, don't be in a hurry to charge. This is just a misunderstanding." He was overjoyed. Zhang Wei had come just in time. It was as if he had come out of nowhere. Zhang Wei naturally knew the pros and cons. He raised his thick eyebrows and dismounted. "Oh, it's young Master Tang Bin. I was wondering who it was." However, young Master Tang Bin, all frontier vassals need to report to the army before they enter the capital. We, the Imperial Army, did not receive any report from the 1007 Seas City Cavalry led by young Master Tang Bin. "Young Master, is there some misunderstanding?" Tang Bin clenched his teeth and cupped his fists. "Lord Zhang Wei, it is indeed a misunderstanding. These 1000 cavalry were just sent by 7 Seas City to protect me. I did not have the time to report to the Imperial Army. Please forgive me, Lord Zhang Wei." Zhang Wei's lips curled up. "Oh, so it really is a misunderstanding. Old Zhang, thought that young master wanted to make a move on Lady Lin Muyu. Lady Lin Muyu is one of the newly conferred 4 heroes of Lan Yan. Whoever dares to make a move on her is a provocation to His Majesty's imperial authority. Since it's not the case, that's great. Young master, please leave. I still have a mission to patrol the city. Old Zhang, please forgive me for not sending you off." Tang Bin nodded. "All right, we will meet again in the future. Have a safe trip, I won't send you off." Although Tang Bin was unwilling, he did not have the slightest chance this time. The 1000 Imperial Army soldiers led by Zhang Wei were all elite cavalry. They might not lose to his 1007 Seas City Cavalry. Moreover, there was also Lin Muyu, whose strength was unfathomable. Furthermore, Tang Xiaoxi was deeply doted on by Tang Lan. If this matter were to blow up, it would not do him any good. After watching Tang Bin and the others leave, Tang Xiaoxi bit her red lips and said, "Mu, I'm really sorry this time." Lin Muyu smiled slightly. Holding her little hand, she said, "With our friendship, there is no need to say sorry. But this Tang Bin is really too overbearing. It would be terrible if the 7 Seas province were to be handed over to such a person in the future. Could it be that Xiaoxi, don't you want to take back your position as the successor of 7 Seas City?" But Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful eyes were filled with helplessness. Chapter 203. But what? Lin Muyu laughed softly. "Could it be that you want to see that scene again? Tang Bin uses his power to bully others. Not only does he bully you, but he also bullies your friends. Can you endure all of this?" "I don't want to." Tang Xiaoxi bit her lips and said, "He and I are brother and sister. For the sake of power, I don't want things to go to that stage. But this has been the case since ancient times. Duke Lan dotes on you so much and will definitely leave a place in 7 Seas City for you. At that time, it is inevitable that Tang Bin will attack you with his sword. so it is better to make a decision as soon as possible. Lin Muyu's gaze was sincere and Tang Xiaoxi almost couldn't bear to look at it. She blushed and said, "But Seven Seas City has its rules. Only those who have mastered the Fire Fox Seal have the right to become the Lord of Seven Seas City. Grandfather's Fire Fox Seal has already reached perfection and Tang Bin's Fire Fox Seal has also reached the 7th layer. But as a girl, I can't even control the 1st layer. It doesn't matter, there will definitely be a way." Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, "Let's go ask the 2 elders Lei Hong and Chu Chu and see if they have a way to solve the problem of you being unable to cultivate the Fire Fox Seal." Tang Xiaoxi smiled and nodded. She shook Lin Muyu's hand and said with a smile, "Mu, it is good to have you here." Lin Muyu smiled and said, "Do you feel that I am more reliable than your brothers?" "Don't worry, Xiao Shi, I will protect you well in the future and won't let anyone bully you." "Good, I will remember what you said today." "You must also remember it." "I will." Zhang Wei was dumbstruck. "My goodness, you guys are treating this general like air and talking about love here. Don't you care about the feelings of a single person like me?" Lin Muyu chuckled. "Thank you, Lord Zhang Wei, for coming in time this time. In the future, I will definitely put in a good word for you in front of Feng Jixing so that you can become captaincy as soon as possible." Thank you very much, Madam Lin Muyu. I know that you dote on me the most." Tang Xiaoxi was a bit speechless. She looked at Lin Muyu and then at Zhang Wei with worry in her eyes. She grabbed Lin Muyu's hand tightly and said, "Mu, let's hurry back to the city. We can't stay here for long." All right. At night, in the Zetian Palace, the moonlight shone on the imperial city like water. Outside Phoenix Perching Palace Hall, Chu Huaying led 20 dragon guards to guard the balcony with their swords and sabers. The moonlight shone on their silver armor, giving off a holy glow. Although the night was cold and bleak, these loyal dragon guards were like stone statues that did not fear the cold. Inside the palace hall, there was a pot of soup on the stove that was slowly boiling. Chu Chu and Rei Hong sat on the floor, sipping tea while Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Lin Muyu accompanied them. It wasn't easy to invite Rei Hong here in the middle of the night. Furthermore, Chu Chu was also here. It was a rare opportunity for the Empire's 2 great saints to gather. This is indeed a difficult problem. Rei Hong muttered to himself and looked at Tang Xiaoxi. Princess She is a woman after all, so her physique and the structure of her energy C are very different from a man's. The Fire Fox Seal is a kind of ultimate technique that is domineering and powerful. A non-man's energy C is unable to nurture the fire origin energy of the Fire Fox Seal, and without the fire origin energy of the eyes, it is impossible to condense the Fire Fox Seal. Tang Xiaoxi's little mouth twitched, but she didn't say anything. Lin Muyu asked on her behalf, "Great Deacon, what is the difference between a man and a woman's energy C? Why is it that Xiao Yin can use such a powerful martial soul like the god binding chains, but Xiao Shi can't condense the Fire Fox Seal?" There is a huge difference. The one who spoke was Chu Chu. He raised his head and said, "Although the god binding chains are powerful and domineering, it is still a martial soul inherited from the bloodline. Although Princess Xiao Yin is a woman, the blood flowing in her body is the true dragon bloodline of the Qin family, so she can naturally bear the domineering god-binding chains. However, Princess Xi's body is very different. She is an extremely normal woman." Lei Hong continued, "The Sea of Qi is condensed in the Dantian. In the Dantian of a man, there is a profound latch called Guanyuan. Every man is born, this Guanyuan profound latch is opened, so it has endless benefits, and can practice any kind of powerful martial arts. But after a woman is born, this Guanyuan profound latch is sealed, unless she can open the profound latch, otherwise, she can't practice some extreme yang techniques." Lin Muyu seemed to see a glimmer of hope and said, "Then can't we just open Xiao Shi's origin gate?" Lei Hong shook his head and said, "No. A woman's primordial profound latch is like her own body. Every woman is born with a virgin body. Only after having intercourse with a man will the lower body's profound latch be broken, but the profound latch in the Qi Sea cannot be broken. Once it is broken, the Qi Si will leak out, which is equivalent to crippling the Qi Si. Immediately, the faces of Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi turned bright red. Lin Muyu was speechless and said, "The metaphor of a virgin body? It can't be that melodramatic, right? Grand Deacon, don't tell me that the only way is for Xiaoxi to open the profound gate with a man." Lei Hong glanced at him. "In your dreams. Even if that's the case, it won't help. The only way is to open the profound latch and protect Princess Xi's sea of qi from leaking. Otherwise, even if the profound latch is broken, once the sea of qi leaks, she'll be as good as crippled. Then is there any other way?" Lin Muyu was a little anxious. Chu Chu smiled slightly and said, "Little Lin, why are you so anxious for Princess Xi?" Lin Muyu said, "Chu, you don't know, but Tang Bin of Seven Seas City is overbearing. If it wasn't for me and Zhang Wei today, I'm afraid he would have forcefully snatched the Tang sect iron token from Xiaoxi's hands." "So that's how it is." Chu Chu stroked his beard and a glint shot out from his eyes. Seven Seas City is indeed a huge variable in the empire. There are more than 200,000 soldiers stationed in Seven Seas City. They are strong and have many strong generals. Tang Bin, Tang Lu, and Tang Tian aren't easy to deal with either. Currently, Duke Lan is still alive and can stabilize the situation in Seven Seas Province. But if he leaves one day, I'm afraid there will be chaos in Seven Seas City. As he spoke, Chu Chu looked at Lin Muyu and said, "You did the right thing by helping Princess Xi seize power. This way, Her Highness will have Princess Xi's help when she ascends the throne. Otherwise, when Her Highness Xiao Yin ascends the throne, the empire will be in chaos before her wings are fully grown." Qin Yin was stunned. "Father's body is still healthy." "It won't happen." Chu Chu shook his head and said, "Her Majesty's wind-cold physique is getting weaker by the day." "Xiao Yin, why are you deceiving yourself? You're the heir to the throne, and one day, you'll be in charge of the empire. There are some things that you should plan ahead of time. Reiham and I are still alive, and we're still able to contribute to your Highness's empire. However, if one day Reiham and I are gone, your Highness can only rely on your peers like Yu, Feng Jixing, and Princess Xi." Qin Yin's eyes turned red. "Chu. I understand." Lei Hong stroked his white beard and said with a smile, "Chu, don't scare Her Highness. It's not that scary. I think that although Her Majesty's body is weak, she can at least continue to be on the throne for another 10 years. Moreover, you also saw that Her Majesty conferred the titles of Wind, Rain, Thunder, and Lightning generals yesterday. In fact, it is to help Xiao Yin cultivate her own generals. Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Qin Lei, and Chu Huayin have limitless futures. With the four of them, the empire of the Qin Empire will be half-stabilized." Qin Yin blinked her eyes and looked at Lin Muyu. She suddenly asked, "Brother Yu, you will always be by my side, right?" Lin Muyu was stunned. Looking at Qin Yin's beautiful face, she couldn't help but feel a little flustered. She nodded and said, "Yes, as long as Xiao Yin needs me, I will not leave her." Qin Yin smiled sweetly, and she had a beauty that could topple all living things. Lei Hong frowned and said, "It seems that the matter of helping Princess Xi regain the position of the successor of Seven Seas City is imperative. Forget it, forget it. Her Highness Xiao Yin, please allow me and Chu, to read in the library tonight. How about it? I want to read the ancient books in the Empire's collection. Perhaps if I'm lucky, I can find the method to let Princess Xi cultivate the Fire Fox seal." "Yes." Qin Yin nodded heavily. "I will write a document in a while and let the officials in the library let you in." Lin Muyu said, "Shall I go with you? One more person means a little more hope." Lei Hong nodded approvingly. "All right, then you will go with us." Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi looked at each other and smiled. Thus, they didn't even need to write the document and decided to go together late at night. The five of them were also destined to spend the night in the library. Late at night, there were a total of 10 stoves in the library to keep warm, but but it still couldn't stop the cold wind from blowing in through the cracks in the door. Lin Muyu sat among a pile of ancient books and flipped through them one by one. After entering this world for so long, she basically knew the words of this world, so it wasn't difficult for her to flip through them. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi lit up the oil lamps and sat at the table, reading the ancient books under the watch of the maids. As for Lei Hong and Chu Chu, they were constantly wandering among the books, their brows furrowed. Outside the library, Chu Huaying and the other 21 dragon guards were still waiting outside. The moonlight was cold, and frost appeared on their shoulders, but no one moved. They still stood majestically in the cold wind. All they could do was use their vital energy to resist the cold, but how could the strength of a human body go against nature? In the blink of an eye, all of their faces turned purple from the cold. When the first ray of sunlight penetrated the clouds and landed in Lanyan City, Chu Chu's slightly excited voice came from the library. "Found it. I found it." "What is it?" Lin Muyu flipped over and rushed over with Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. They saw Chu Chu holding an ancient book in his hand. 3 words were written on the cover, Jin Ping Mei. Lin Muyu's face immediately turned purple. "Chu, did you take the wrong book?" "No, it's this one." Chu Chu smiled and said, We might have to rely on you to break Princess Xi's hidden latch this time." "What do you mean?" Jin Ping Mei is a level 10 herb. Combined with level 9 Arhat fragrance, it can be refined into a level 10 medicine called the Perfection Medicine. "Do you know about it as a medicine god?" Chu Chu's face was full of excitement. Perfection Medicine. Lin Muyu was shocked. Chu Chu continued, "It is said that 5,000 years ago, after the great Emperor Crimson Phoenix ascended to the throne, he visited the mortal realm and found a peerless beauty called Chu Rong. However, Chu Rong was no longer a virgin, so the Crimson Phoenix Emperor ordered the world-famous medicine god to create a medicine that could restore a girl's virginity. This is the Perfection Medicine. We can also use this method to open Princess Xi's origin profound latch. Lei Hong and I will use our sacred domain power to protect her Qi Si from leaking. In this short period of time, Princess Xi can cultivate the first level of the Fire Fox seal and drink the Perfection Medicine immediately. This way, Princess Xi might be able to cultivate the Fire Fox seal." Lin Muyu was dumbstruck. He had no choice but to write the word convinced. He rubbed his eyes and said, "All right then, we'll immediately search for the Jin Ping Mei and the Arhat fragrance." Damn, this Crimson Phoenix Emperor is also a Virgo with a severe virgin complex. People with OCD really can't afford to hurt him, all right. Chapter 204. Luo Hengxiang was a very strange herb. It was said to be connected to Buddha, but there were very few people in the Shattered Cauldron realm who believed in Buddha, and they did not believe in the Buddha of Earth, but another Buddha that Lin Muyu was unfamiliar with. However, overall, they still believed in the type of people who lay down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha. "I've seen Luo Hengxiang in the dragon-seeking forest. It's about 2 days' journey from here." Chu Chu nodded and said, "So, I'll go find Luo Hengxiang. Lei Hong, you stay in Zhe Tian Hall for a few days and protect His Majesty and Her Highness." "How about that?" Lei Hong nodded and said, "All right, then what about the Jin Ping Mei?" "There's no need to look for the Jin Ping Mei." Chu Chu smiled and said, "I've seen this herb before." "Oh, where?" "Sangnan Province, Governor Hu Tianing's courtyard has a few Jin Ping Mei trees. It's winter now and the plum blossoms are in full bloom. It's the best time to collect the Jin Ping Mei." Chu Chu thought for a moment and said, "We'll send someone to Sangnan Province's 5 Valleys city to find Hu Tianing." "Who should go?" Lei Hong asked. Tang Xiaoxi volunteered and said, "Let me go." "No." Chu Chu refused resolutely and said, "Firstly, Princess Xi, you haven't stepped into the heaven realm and your strength is insufficient. Secondly, the distance between the imperial capital and Sangnan province is long. There are bandits, mercenaries, and people from the House of Chivalry. If there's any mishap, our entire plan will be in vain." As he spoke, Chu Chu looked at Lin Muyu and said, You already have the strength of a heavenly king, and you're also one of the newly conferred 4 heroes of Lanyan. You also have a dragon talisman. How about this, you'll replace Princess Shi and go to Cangnan province to get the Jin Pingmei. You only need to cut a branch and refine the medicinal essence. Lin Muyu said respectfully, All right, I'll go. Qin Yin blinked her eyes, wanting to say something but hesitating. Lei Hong frowned and said, When you committed a crime in Silver Fir City, Hu Tianning once sent several thousand elites of the Flying Mount camp to pursue and kill him. Although they failed, Hu Tianning's hatred for you is clear. Moreover, Hu Tianning is Yu's uncle. I suspect that it will be very inconvenient for you to travel to Cangnan. At the very least, a single gilded dragon talisman is far from enough. What else do you want? Lin Muyu asked. Let's ask His Majesty for an imperial edict. Since it's from His Majesty, I believe it won't be a problem to ask for this plum blossom. All right. Chu Chu walked over and patted Lin Muyu's shoulder, saying, You must be careful along the way. Pick another 100 imperial guards from the Eagle Nest camp to accompany you. Helping Princess Shi to make a breakthrough is also one of the missions of the Eagle Nest camp. As a commander, you can't go to Cangnan province alone. Lin Muyu squinted her eyes and said with a smile, Could it be that Hu Tianning really dares to kill me? It's best to be careful. Chu Chu slowly put down the scroll in his hand and said with a smile, Hu Tianning has been the governor of Cangnan province for many years and can be said to be a feudal lord. Although he comes to the imperial capital to have an audience with His Majesty every year, as the highest governor and military commander of a province, his arrogance is growing day by day. We must guard against him. All right, I know. I will be careful. All right, prepare Yu's letter. If there are any mishaps, immediately send a letter to report to us. Yes. The next morning, after a short rest, Lin Muyu set off from the Eagle Nest camp with the Emperor's imperial edict in hand. Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang and the other capable subordinates were all brought along. In total, she brought 20 imperial guards and 80 elite imperial guards, all of them were cavalry. Outside the north gate of Yanlan City, the royal flag was swaying in the distance. The royal flag was embroidered with a large Qin character. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were there, waiting to send Lin Muyu off. Urging her horse forward, Lin Muyu dismounted and cupped her fists respectfully. Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, there is actually no need to send me off with such great fanfare. This will instead let others know. The cold wind caused Qin Yin's princess cloak to flutter. She walked forward and said with a smile, Originally Xiao Shi also said the same thing, but I feel that it is better to let more people know that you are going to Cangnan province so that Hu Tianning will treat you with more respect. And there is also a bit of truth. Lin Muyu nodded in agreement. Oh right, older brother Yu, I still have a little gift to give you. Oh, what? Lin Muyu asked in surprise. Qin Yin smiled with dimples and signaled the maid behind her, Bring it over. Yes, Your Highness. A maid came forward, holding a roll of white blanket embroidered with gold in her hand. It looked very expensive. Qin Yin reached out and held the blanket in front of her chest. Her pair of beautiful eyes looked at Lin Muyu without concealing her reluctance to part. She smiled slightly and said, Well, this is the snow fox blanket. The golden flowers on the edge were personally embroidered by me. Older brother Yu, your trip to Cangnan province will take at least 3 to 5 days. The wind is cold at night. You should cover yourself with the blanket, otherwise it will be bad if you catch a cold. Lin Muyu couldn't help laughing and said, Xiao Yin is so careful, what do you think? Qin Yin showed a trace of a little girl's look, pouted and said, You also have to take proper care of your body. Although your physique may be stronger than ordinary people, it is still flesh and blood after all. If you don't take good care of yourself, if you get sick when you come back, won't you still have to trouble me and Xiaoxi to take care of you? That won't happen. Lin Muyu's heart warmed. She hugged the blanket and said with a smile, Xiao Yin and Xiaoxi, don't worry, I can take care of myself. You see how old I am. You two are only 20 and I am 24. I am so much older than you two. If I can't take care of myself, then wouldn't I have lived these 4 years in vain? Qin Yin burst into laughter. No matter what you say, you are right. At this time, Tang Xiaoxi also came forward and said, Mu, don't just say goodbye to Xiao Yin. I also have something here for you. Oh, what is it? Come, bring it here. Yes. Several guards of the Duke's mansion came forward, each of them holding something wrapped in white cloth. A faint fragrance filled their nostrils. Tang Xiaoxi opened one of the packages and said with a smile, Here, fragrant beef loaf, good quality snow rabbit leg, and some fruits to help with digestion. You will need them for your journey. Lin Muyu didn't know what to say anymore. The two girls were really thoughtful, and he was already in tears of gratitude. He immediately wrapped the blanket around the warhorse and handed the meat to Wei Chou and Xiahou Sang. He smiled and said, Thank you, Xiao Shi. You are just as thoughtful as Xiao Yin. Tang Xiaoxi smiled faintly. In any case, you should come back early. Just take the official road. You are the royal guard, and there are so many of you. Those mercenaries and bandits won't dare to do anything to you. Got it. Then I will set off. Lin Muyu flipped over and turned the horse around to face the two beauties. His expression became solemn, and he suddenly raised his right hand in front of his chest. He lowered his head slightly and performed a standard Empire military salute. His salute was not abrupt, but there was a kind of calmness and steadiness that came after being baptized by wind and frost. Moreover, he was dressed in the Holy Cathedral's uniform, which made him look even more heroic. In an instant, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's hearts were in a mess. Qin Yin looked up at him and said, Come back early. Let's go. Lin Muyu turned the horse around again and shouted, Let's go. The warhorses neighed and the sound of hooves gradually became louder. In the blink of an eye, the group had already left Lanyan City. When Lin Muyu and the others disappeared into the horizon, Qin Yin suddenly let out a faint sigh for no reason. She felt a sense of loss in her heart. She reached out to hold the Zine sword and felt the fiery holy power coming from the sword. She could not help but feel a warmth in her heart. She smiled and said, Xiao Shi, let's return to Zai Tian Palace. Tang Xiaoxi looked into the distance and pursed her red lips. She flipped over and mounted the horse, following Qin Yin. They galloped along the official road. After dusk, there were fewer and fewer people on the official road. Wei Chou asked as he galloped, My lady, there is a post house 10 miles ahead. Should we rest there tonight? No need. Lin Muyu held the reins tightly and said, Continue on our way. We will set up camp and rest at 9 o'clock. Yes. Time passed slowly. The sky was already filled with stars. Not long after, it would be 9 o'clock. However, they were in the middle of nowhere. Lin Muyu raised her hand and said, We will set up camp next to the forest and rest until sunrise tomorrow. We will set off immediately. Yes, my lady. The group dismounted one after another. The soldiers of the spiritual medicine department began to cook. Lin Muyu tied up the warhorse and fed it some fodder. She then carried the dragon spirit sword and patrolled around the area to check the terrain. However, it was quite barren here. There were no traces of beasts, let alone humans. This night was destined to be very peaceful. Well, peace was better than anything else. After eating, Lin Muyu leaned against a corner of the tent to rest. She was covered with the snow fox blanket that Qin Yin had given her. She immediately felt a faint warmth in her heart. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were both attentive girls. Moreover, they were so good to her. What should she do? Although Lin Muyu was not very sensitive to feelings, she was not stupid. She had to make a choice. On the side, Xiahou Sang was sleeping soundly, snoring like thunder. After some time, Wei Chou suddenly opened the curtain and walked in. His expression was solemn. He pushed Lin Muyu's shoulder and said, My lady, wake up. Is it morning? Lin Muyu asked. No. Wei Qiu lowered his voice and said, our people found traces of a group of people 5 miles away. There are around 200 people and they are heading straight towards our direction. They will arrive within the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Oh, did you see who they are? Lin Muyu sat up. People from the House of Chivalry. Oh. Lin Muyu frowned and said, people from the House of Chivalry want to attack the Imperial Army again. Have they eaten a bear's heart or a leopard's heart? Wei Qiu smiled faintly and said, after His Majesty ordered the annihilation of the House of Chivalry in the North Ridge province, these people from the House of Chivalry have become more and more rampant. They are even shouting rebellious slogans. What slogans? I dare not say, speak. They say, His Majesty is a tyrant and a fatuous ruler. The Imperial Army is just a group of loyal dogs that should not exist in this world. Is that so? Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes. Naturally, she knew what the House of Chivalry was like. However, since they were so arrogant, there must be someone behind them. Moreover, this person was definitely a schemer. Sometimes, an opponent like Xin Yifan was not scary. Instead, it was an opponent who hid behind the scenes and plotted against them that was the scariest. My lady, what should we do? Wei Qiu asked. Lin Muyu raised her sword and said, don't make a sound. Wake everyone up and maintain the bonfire outside the tent. Everyone is to hide in the forest on the east side. When the people from the House of Chivalry come, we will kill them all. Yes. Wei Qiu's eyes were filled with excitement. Chapter 205. The snow in the forest had melted, but the night wind was so cold that even someone as strong as Xiahou Sang could not help but clench his teeth. He held his sword and hid in the grass. He lowered his voice and said angrily, this group of rebellious traitors disturb my sleep. How hateful. My lord, should we kill them all, or? Lin Muyu said lightly, what do you think? Xiahou Sang's eyes flashed and he said, kill. Lin Muyu asked again, Wei Qiu, what do you think? Wei Qiu gripped the demon-devouring bow tightly, his eyes glowing faintly under the moonlight. His expression was solemn as he said, although most of these chivalrous men are commoners, most of them have been instilled with the ideals of the House of Chivalry. So even if we show mercy, they will definitely kill us. In this case, if the Imperial Army shows mercy, we will be the ones to suffer. Lin Muyu sighed and said in a voice as soft as a mosquito, then kill. Yes, Commander. The moonlight fell on the pure white cloak of the holy temple. Lin Muyu squinted his eyes. Many people were destined to die tonight. What was he doing? Had he really become a pawn of the Empire? He shook his head. No, definitely not. He had his own judgment and would not be bewitched by others. Here, killing the people of the House of Chivalry was a righteous act. After all, his subordinates, the royal guards, would not bully the civilians. That was enough. The sound of horses' hooves and footsteps came from afar. They were here. Under the moonlight, about 200 people from the House of Chivalry appeared in the forest. They attacked from the west side of the valley. The number of cavalry was small, less than 20. Most of them were wanderers on foot with swords and sabers. Moreover, their cultivation was very average. Needless to say, this was the military strength of a branch of the House of Chivalry in the North Ridge province. A wanderer with a scar on his face led the way. He held a long saber in his hand and shouted, charge into the camp, leave no one alive. Damn it, these dogs of the Empire, they didn't even send anyone to keep watch. They're digging their own graves. The ranger with the scar on his face had a golden emblem on his chest. He was a Jianghu ranger, but he was not very strong. He seemed to be at the first layer of Earth Realm. Under his orders, a large group of rangers charged into the camp and tore down the tents. They kicked away the bonfire and the soup pot the Imperial Army had set up. They looked incredibly rude and unreasonable. Wei Qiu tightened his grip on his bow. He turned to look at Lin Muyu, waiting for his orders. Lin Muyu nodded. Whoosh! An arrow shot out from the demon-devouring bow, directly piercing through Scarface's neck. Fresh blood flowed. A dignified Jin Zun ranger had actually been killed by a single arrow from Wei Chou. Fire! Xiahou Sang ordered loudly. Almost all of the 100 royal guards were equipped with longbows. Instantly, arrows rained down on the campsite. Screams of agony could be heard. Before the rangers even knew where their opponents were, they had already lost nearly half of their troops. Clang! Lin Muyu unsheathed her dragon spirit sword. She said in a low voice, "Get on your horses and charge." Yes. The Imperial Army soldiers got on their horses and charged forward quickly. With Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, and the others leading the Imperial Army soldiers, they blocked the way in front. All of them had their martial souls, so how could the rangers resist? Pfft! Lin Muyu swung her sword from above, slicing a wanderer and his shield into two halves. With another wave of her left hand, the dragon spirit sword chopped off the heads of two halberds. As the sword chi continued to wreak havoc, two more screams rang out. In front of them, 7 rangers on warhorses raised their spears and charged over. Lin Muyu immediately sheathed her sword. She reached into her cosmos sack with one hand and pulled out the pear blossom spear with a whoosh. She quickly charged over. The spear glowed with a cold light, and 3 snow-white pear blossoms blossomed in the air. At the same time, 3 rangers fell to the ground, howling in pain. Lin Muyu continued forward. She used the spear technique that she had stolen from Zhao Jin. The tip of the spear lightly knocked away the opponent's spear, and the spear directly pierced through his chest. However, this ranger had guts. He reached out to grab the pear blossom spear and roared, "Empire dog, even if I die, I will drag you to hell with me." Lin Muyu coldly snorted and poured battle chi into her right arm. She raised the pear blossom spear horizontally and smashed the ranger's body against the other 2. Immediately, screams rang out. The heads of the rangers collided, and their bodies burst open. A thick smell of blood rushed into her nose, and immediately, Lin Muyu almost vomited. She hurriedly activated the wall of the gourd, and a golden light flickered. While protecting herself, she also didn't want to see too many cruel scenes. The battle ended very quickly. When Xiahou Sang chopped off the head of the last ranger, all 200+ rangers had been reduced to corpses. On the other hand, only a few of the royal army had suffered light injuries. It was a crushing victory. Bah! Xiahou Sang spat at a corpse. His eyes were filled with anger as he said, "You bunch of trash want to topple the empire? What a fool's dream." Wei Chou said, "Milord, what do we do now?" Lin Muyu wiped the blood off the pear blossom spear and said, "Search these corpses to see if there's anything valuable on them, then bury them all. We'll set out tomorrow morning." "Yes." Xiahou Sang mumbled, "Milord, why bother burying the corpses of these traitors? In my opinion, we should just leave their corpses in the wilderness and let the wild beasts feast on them. At the very least, we should set up stakes along the way and chop off their heads. This will serve as a warning to those who have rebelled against the empire. Let's see if they still dare to act so insolently." Lin Muyu frowned. "If that's the case, I'm afraid we'll really become the empire's dogs in their eyes. His Majesty Qin Jin is a benevolent ruler and doesn't want to kill too many people. If we act so cruelly, we'll be playing right into their hands." Xiahou Sang was startled. He hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "This lowly general has not thought things through. Please punish me, milord." "There's nothing to punish. Get back to work." "Yes." Before long, Wei Chou walked over with a blood-stained document in his hand. "Milord, there's something you need to take a look at." "Oh, what is it?" "This is a customs clearance document." Lin Muyu unfurled the scroll. Although it was stained with blood, it did not affect her reading. It was a customs clearance document from Cangnan Province to Lingbei Province. There was even the seal of the governor's office of Changnan province on it. Moreover, the clearance document indicated that the target of entry was the 100 people from the House of Chivalry. Wei Chou said coldly, "It seems that this governor of Changnan province, Hu Tianning, is really not simple. His Majesty ordered the extermination of the House of Chivalry, yet he still dared to privately issue a customs clearance document to the people of the House of Chivalry. Could it be before that?" "No." Wei Chou said decisively. The day after the assassination in Deer Garden, His Majesty sent out a letter to announce to the world. But this customs clearance document is dated 5 days ago. No matter how you try to explain it, you can't get away with it. Lin Muyu rolled up the document and stuffed it into her Qingquan bag. She said with a smile, "Just pretend you didn't see this piece of paper." Wei Chou understood tacitly, "Yes, milord." Hu Tianning was the provincial governor and held the military power of nearly 100,000 troops. This kind of feudal lord could not be casually touched. Just this document was not enough to convict him. Moreover, this time Lin Muyu came to Changnan province with a request from Hu Tianning. Even if she wanted to make a move, she had to wait until she obtained the Jin Ping Mei. 3 days later, the imperial guards finally arrived at the core city of Changnan province, Five Valleys City. Five Valleys City was one of the 7 famous cities of the empire. It was famous for its water and rice. It had a population of 2.4 million people. The land was fertile and the population was abundant. It was said that half of the food of the imperial capital Lanyan City came from Five Valleys City. It was precisely because of the products of Five Valleys City that Qin Jin ordered the construction of this official road known as the Grain Road 10 years ago. Looking from afar, the outline of Five Valleys City was very majestic. Although it was not as towering as the imperial capital Lanyan City, it could be considered to have a different style. The city walls of about 10 meters high surrounded the entire Five Valleys City, and one could not see the end of it at a glance. On the main road, there was an endless stream of merchants and civilians, and patrolling guards could be seen everywhere. When Lin Muyu and the others appeared in the sight of the city, a cavalry team in the city came to greet them. The leader was a man who looked like a scholar, but had a protruding mouth and monkey-like cheeks. He smiled and cupped his fists, saying, "I am Hu Yang, commander of the governor's office. Greetings, Milord Lin Muyu, the second of the 4 heroes of Lanyan City. Milord's presence in Five Valleys City makes us feel honored. The governor has sent me to welcome Milord." Lin Muyu smiled slightly. "Milord is too polite. Commander Lin Muyu has come from afar. You must be tired. Please follow me into the city. Governor Hu Tianning has already set up a banquet in the governor's office." "Okay, thank you." Xiahou Sang laughed secretly. "This Hu Tianning is quite sensible." Lin Muyu turned around and glared at him. Immediately, Xiahou Sang did not dare to say anything more. Along the way, they entered Five Valleys City in a grandiose manner. When passing through the market, they saw many naked girls dressed in alien costumes being escorted by a group of soldiers. There were about hundreds of people. Some were crying, and some were looking at the people around them with cold eyes. Their eyes were full of hatred and anger. Lin Muyu asked with a smile, "Milord Hu Yang, what's the matter with these women?" Hu Yang's gaze swept across and revealed a trace of contempt. He smiled and said, "These are the barbarian sluts of Lingdong province. Last month, there was a rebellion in Lingdong province. 20,000 barbarian soldiers crossed Tianshu province along the Qinling Mountains and attempted to attack our Five Valleys City. However, Governor Hu Tianning ordered the Flying Mount Battalion to attack. More than 10,000 heavy cavalry of the Flying Mount Battalion quelled the rebellion at almost zero cost." As he spoke, Hu Yang curled his lips and smiled. "Well, these women are all barbarian sluts. After they were captured, they were sold as female slaves. They are very cheap. You can buy one for just a few Jin coins. Some of the more hot-tempered barbarian women can be bought for just a few dozen silver coins. Hey, milord, are you interested in these women?" Lin Muyu shook her head, smiled, and said, "How could that be possible? I'm not that kind of person. Hey. Hu Yang also smiled, my lord, you are so handsome. Indeed, you don't need these lowly barbarian women. By the way, my lord Hu Yang, what will be done with these female slaves in the future? Hu Yang said, those who are good-looking will usually be bought by the nobles or the rich to be kept as their exclusive property. Chapter 206. This time, Lin Muyu did nothing, because he could not save these barbarian girls with his ability, and he could only see hatred in their eyes. Lin Muyu knew that he was not the reincarnation of a living Buddha, so he did not bother to be a good person. Some things were better to let nature take its course. The governor's mansion was exceptionally luxurious, even more so than the duke's mansion where Tang Xiaoxi lived. On the doorpost of the duke's mansion in Five Valleys City, reliefs were carved with real gold. The images of rice, livestock, rice, and fish were vivid and lifelike, symbolizing that the city was famous for its animal husbandry, fishing, and planting, as well as its strong army and horses. On the gilded steps, the provincial governor, Hu Tianning, dressed in military attire, walked down step by step with his hand on the hilt of his sword. He cupped his fists and smiled. Welcome, Lord Lin Muyu, one of the 4 heroes of Lan Yan, to Five Valleys City. Lin Muyu immediately made a military salute and said respectfully, Lord Governor is too polite, I am flattered. Ha! Hu Tianning looked at Lin Muyu and smiled, heroes truly come from the young. Lord Lin Muyu was just a nameless junior when he left Silver Fir City, but now you've become an outstanding general personally appointed by His Majesty. A scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at in a new light. Hu Tianning has no choice but to admire you. Come, my lord, you must be exhausted. Follow me to the dining table. Thank you. Lin Muyu cupped his fists, and the attendants led the horses away, while Wei Chou, Xiahou sang, and the others followed with their weapons. Five Valleys City was only the center of a province, and could not be compared with Lanyan City. Moreover, Lin Muyu came with the emperor's edict this time. No matter how strict the governor's mansion was, they dared not disarm Lin Muyu and the others. In the hall, a grand luncheon was held to entertain the distinguished guests. Hu Tianning sat at the host's seat, while Lin Muyu sat at the second seat. Opposite Lin Muyu was a young general of about 30 years old. Judging from his aura, this person had stepped into the heaven realm, and was probably the strongest general in the entire governor's mansion. Come. Hu Tianning raised his cup and said with a smile, today the distinguished guests have come to Cangnan province, everyone in Five Valleys City rejoiced. Drink with me to welcome Lord Lin Muyu. Everyone raised their cups and drank in one gulp. Suddenly, a burning sensation slid down his throat. Lin Muyu sat there steadily, nodded and smiled. Thank you for your hospitality, Lord Governor, I am very grateful. Hu Tianning laughed, you don't have to be so polite. Come, let me introduce you, this is General Long Qianlin, who was personally conferred the title of Eastern Suppression General by His Majesty 2 years ago. He is currently in charge of Cangnan Province, in charge of 120,000 soldiers in Cangnan Province. Moreover, General Long Qianlin has achieved success at a young age, and Lord Lin Muyu is also a young hero. We can learn from each other. Long Qianlin cupped his fists and said respectfully, subordinate pays respect to Lord Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu also returned the salute, you are too polite, Lord. It should be subordinate paying respect to you. In terms of military rank, Long Qianlin was a 4th grade general, while Lin Muyu was only a 6th grade general. They couldn't be compared at all. However, the main reason why Long Qianlin was so respectful should be because of Lin Muyu's identity. The emperor's adopted son, one of the 4 heroes of Lan Yan, was enough to match the status of a 2nd grade national general. Hu Tianning put down his cup and said with a smile, Lord Lin Muyu may not know, but General Long Qianlin has just made an unprecedented achievement last month. He led more than 10,000 heavy cavalry of the Flying Mount Battalion to intercept more than 20,000 troops of the Winter Barbarians at the foot of the Qinling Mountains. He forced the barbarians to hastily engage in battle with the tactic of setting fire to their main camp. He won a great victory, beheaded more than 10,000 people, and lost less than 1,000 of his own men. He can be called a famous contemporary general. Lin Muyu was stunned for a moment, then said with a smile, "So the battle to defeat the barbarians was commanded by Lord Long Qianlin? My apologies, my apologies." Long Qianlin couldn't help but be a little mischievous and said helplessly, "Actually, those barbarians don't know the art of war. They don't have any tactics or formations in battle, so I was able to defeat them with the heavy cavalry formation. I'm afraid that any general can do the same. I really don't deserve the title of famous general. I only hope that I can reflect on myself every day and live up to the salary that the empire gives me." Lin Muyu couldn't help but have a good impression of this Long Qianlin. It was reasonable to say that a young man who commanded 120,000 troops should be arrogant and supercilious, but this Long Qianlin was still so respectful, which was really rare. Lin Muyu said, "It seems that I really need to ask General Long for advice. I, Lin Muyu, am just a boorish man. I only have strength, but I know nothing about the art of war or the art of war. Lord is too modest." Long Qianlin cupped his fists and said, "If Lord wants to ask for advice, I will definitely tell you everything I know." Lin Muyu smiled slightly. "Thank you." In fact, when it came to the art of war, Lin Muyu had been forced by his father to read Sun Tzu's Art of War and other military books since he was young, so it could be said that he was very familiar with them. The only thing he lacked was the tempering of using troops on the battlefield. Moreover, with his intelligence and wisdom, he would definitely be able to display his strong points. After 3 rounds of wine, Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, and the others were slightly tipsy. Hu Tianning clapped his hands and said with a smile, "Bring on the dancers." Immediately, a group of young girls dressed in chiffon dresses slowly walked into the main hall and danced gracefully to the accompaniment of the musicians. They were overflowing with beauty, and these young girls were all carefully selected. In terms of appearance and beauty, they were all top-notch. For a moment, the group of guests in the governor's manor were already staring at them. Using the excuse of drunkenness, they once again began to drink with each other. Lin Muyu remained sober, using the spirit pulse technique to dispel the drunkenness from her mind time and time again. After an unknown amount of time, Hu Tianning drunkenly stood up, his body swaying a little, and said with a smile, "Today is a joyous gathering, and these dancers are all maids trained by my manor. If there are any that you like, please feel free to bring them back to your room. If these maids are favored by you, then I will not have failed you." For a moment, the deputy generals, brigadier generals, and captains of the governor's manor all laughed drunkenly. Some even stood up and pointed at one of the dancers, shouting with a smile, "I want that one, the one with the biggest breasts." Hu Tianning held the table and said with a smile, "Don't be rude, let the honored guests choose first. Lord Lin Muyu, you are Laozi's honored guest in the imperial capital. Come, among these dancers, which one do you think is the most beautiful?" Lin Muyu stood up, cupped her fists and said with a smile, "Yellow, purple, and green, these 3 are the most beautiful." Hu Tianning waved his hand, "Did you hear that? The 3 of you will serve Lord tonight." "Don't." Lin Muyu cupped her fists again and said, "Lord Governor, Lin Muyu has a heavy responsibility this time, so I appreciate Lord Governor's intention. As for these dancers, I'm afraid I don't have the fortune to enjoy them." Hu Tianning was stunned, and couldn't help but burst into laughter. "I heard that Princess Shi and Her Highness Yin have a very close relationship with Lord Governor. Looks like it's true, Lord Governor doesn't like these mediocre women." Lin Muyu smiled awkwardly, tacitly agreeing. Hu Tianning continued, "Lord Imperial Guards, if there are any dancers you like, you don't have to be courteous, feel free to choose." Wei Chou cupped his fists and said, "The martial arts manual that I cultivate forbids me from getting close to women. I appreciate Lord Governor's kindness." Xiahou Sang was already dead drunk, his eyes were drowsy, and his mouth was dry. He looked at Lin Muyu and asked, "Lord Governor, can this general? Lin Muyu smiled faintly. In any case, only she and Wei Chou knew about the customs clearance documents, and it didn't matter that Xiahou Sang knew very little. She nodded and said, "If there is anyone you like, bring them back." "Thank you, Lord Governor." Xiahou Sang felt as if he had been granted amnesty, and immediately pointed at a group of dancers and said, "The ones in purple and yellow, come together." For a moment, Lin Muyu felt like dying. She held her forehead and thought to herself, "Damn it, why do I have such a lecherous subordinate?" From afar, Long Qianlin looked at Lin Muyu's expression and also secretly smiled. As a result, Xiahou Sang and the other 2 imperial guards took away a total of 4 dancers, while the remaining dozens of dancers were given to the high-ranking officers of the governor's office to serve them. Just like Lin Muyu, although Long Qianlin was the highest commander, he rejected Hu Tianing's good intentions. Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang and the others were arranged to stay in the governor's mansion's VIP room. And after Lin Muyu expressed the purpose of her visit, Hu Tianing very happily said that he would send a bouquet of Jinping plums to the VIP room tomorrow morning. This made Lin Muyu feel relieved. This trip to Cangnan province could be considered smooth, and she did not fail her mission. The only flaw was that the noise next door was too loud. Xiahou Sang was full of energy, making the 2 dancers feel like dying, so much so that their voices penetrated the wall and directly reached Lin Muyu's ears. "Lord Governor is so strong. This lowly concubine can't stand it anymore. Humph, watch carefully, I still have more powerful moves." "Lord Governor, don't, I really can't. Lord Governor, you say that Lin Muyu Lord is so handsome, him or you, who is better in bed?" "Nonsense, of course my Lord Governor is stronger. If I let you talk more, quickly lie down, I will let you know what is called powerful." Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile bitterly. Xiahou Sang's words could be considered as loyal and devoted to her. Walking out of the door, it was a bleak winter, and the fallen leaves in the courtyard slowly rolled with the wind. Lin Muyu casually pulled out the dragon spirit sword, and with the help of her tipsy state, she danced a set of wind-riding sword technique. When she sheathed the sword, she heard applause coming from outside. In the darkness, a man came in. It was the general of the East, Long Qianlin. "General Long hasn't slept yet?" Lin Muyu smiled slightly. Long Qianlin also smiled. "Isn't Lord Governor also awake? Just now I saw Lord Governor's swordsmanship. It is indeed outstanding, and can be considered to have reached the realm of lightness." "My third-rate swordsmanship, it is not worth mentioning." Lin Muyu laughed, pointed to the stone table next to her, and said, "Would General Long like to sit?" "Yes." Long Qianlin immediately sat down, and asked with a smile, "Is it the first time Lord Governor has come to Five Valleys City?" "Yes." "What do you think of Five Valleys City?" "It is very rich, and the soldiers are strong. I saw those prisoners of war on the street." "Lord Governor, are you referring to those barbarian girls?" Long Qianlin's expression darkened, and he said, "Many of those girls were forced to pick up crude weapons to rebel before they reached adulthood, but in the end, they became the meritorious service of a third-rate general like me. Lord Governor, if I say this, will you look down on me?" Lin Muyu was stunned. "No." Long Qianlin pressed his hand on the cold stone table, and said with a smile, "I don't know how many people died in vain in this battle. I really don't know when the world will truly be at peace. General, are you dissatisfied with the current situation?" Lin Muyu suddenly asked. This time it was Long Qianlin's turn to be a little nervous, and he hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "No. I dare not, I do not mean that. I just feel that, those barbarian girls are also born by their parents, and they are actually the same as us. It is only the difference in culture that makes the hatred between each other irreconcilable. I am not dissatisfied with the current situation, but I am a little presumptuous. I hope Lord Governor can be magnanimous." Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. "It's all right, I also feel a little unfair for those barbarians, but I am powerless." Long Qianlin's eyes shone brightly, and he said with a burning gaze, "Lord Governor, if you were me, what would you do to those barbarians? Those who offend my territory, no matter how far away they are, must be killed." Yes, Long Qianlin was stunned, and he actually felt a sense of arrogance and domineeringness from Lin Muyu. Chapter 207. The next day, he held a plum blossom in his hand and carefully sniffed its scent. It seemed to be exactly the same as the Jin Ping Mei described by Lulu. Presumably, Hu Tianning would not lie to him. After all, not everyone dared to defy the emperor's imperial edict. After repeatedly thanking him, he led Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and the others to leave Five Valley City, heading straight for North Ridge Province. The sound of hooves gradually faded. The figures of Lin Muyu and the others had already disappeared on the horizon. Hu Tianning suddenly heaved a sigh of relief and said lightly, "Qianlin." Long Qianlin cupped his fists at the side and said, "Milord, this general is here." "Did you tell Lin Muyu about the barbarian girls and the camp concubines last night?" "I did." Hu Tianning raised his brows and said, "What did he say?" Long Qianlin said respectfully, "He only said that this matter was slightly unfair, but did not say anything. He doesn't seem like the crazy General Lin Muyu who can smash the nurturing hall in a fit of anger." A bright light flashed in Hu Tianning's eyes, not showing his emotions on his face. This Lin Muyu's current cultivation is far from simple as we imagined. I see that his strength is restrained, just like a mortal. This kind of expert is really not simple. In the future, our Tsangnan province should try not to offend this person. This kind of opponent is too terrifying. Long Qianlin nodded and suddenly said, "Milord, there are still more than 700 barbarian girls imprisoned in the camp. Many of them are suitable for marriage. This general thinks, perhaps we should not use them as camp concubines. Instead, we should let our soldiers choose and marry them. They will become soldiers' family members and be raised in Five Valley City. What does Milord think?" Haha. Hu Tianning turned to look at Long Qianlin and said with cold eyes, "Qianlin, are you really soft-hearted?" Long Qianlin hurriedly said, This general just feels that this seems to be extremely unfair to them. As Lin Muyu said, the fate of these barbarian girls should not be like this. We have no right to control it." "No." Hu Tianning's voice sank as he said, "I just want all of them to join my camp. Qianlin, your literary and military skills are second to none in this world, but you absolutely cannot be soft-hearted. I want you to know that all of this war is just a game of hegemony. There is only benefit and strength, there is no benevolence, and there is no morality." Long Qianlin gritted his teeth, cupped his fists, and said, "Yes, I understand." "Qianlin." Hu Tianning's voice softened a bit. "If you have time, spend more time with Xiaoyun. She's your fiancée and my daughter. You can't spend all your time on military training, do you understand?" Long Qianlin nodded and said, "Yes. Sir, after I've collected all the stuffs of the Flying Mount camp, I'll spend more time with Xiaoyun. You can rest assured." "Okay." After lunch, they entered the official road and galloped away. "Sir, why don't we take out the customs clearance document to interrogate Hu Tianning?" Wei Chou spurred his horse forward and looked at Lin Muyu with a puzzled expression. "Even if we can't convict Hu Tianning, we can at least give him a warning." Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "There's no need for that. If we really shed all pretense of cordiality, this matter may not end well. Moreover, as you can see, the Five Valleys city has a strong army. Their Flying Mount camp is known as one of the most elite heavy cavalry in the north of the Qinling Mountains. The fact that they could annihilate more than 20,000 barbarians with minimal losses is the best proof. Once a conflict breaks out, the 100 of us won't even be enough to fill the gaps between their teeth. As for whether Hu Tianning has any disloyal intentions, it's enough for us to know. There's no need to let him know." "Yes, sir is wise." Lin Muyu turned sideways and looked at Xiahou Sang. She smiled and asked, "Xiahou, how did the two dancers taste last night?" Xiahou Sang blushed and said with a smile, "Sir, don't make fun of me. I, Xiahou Sang, don't have any hobbies in my life except for lust. I admit it. The martial arts of the two dancers are really good. Hu Tianning is really hospitable. He is even willing to entertain us with such beauties. Lin Muyu raised the corner of her mouth and said, "Don't think that this is a good thing. As the saying goes, one's mouth is short of food. In the future, you will have something that Hu Tianning can use against you. Maybe one day, this can take your life." Xiahou Sang couldn't help but laugh. "Sir, you worry too much. I, Xiahou Sang, am not the kind of person who will be threatened by others. If Hu Tianning really wants to use this to threaten me, I will fall out with him and sleep with him. I don't owe him anything." Lin Muyu gave him a thumbs up. "You are really frighteningly honest." Hee. They galloped to the hour of the sea. Snow began to fall in the jungle near Cangnan province. Although it was not thick, only about 3 centimeters thick on the ground, it seemed to make the weather become colder. Lin Muyu had been observing every movement in the jungle on both sides along the way. Her eyebrows were tightly knitted. "Sir, is there something wrong?" Wei Chou was attentive and saw that Lin Muyu was acting strangely. "No, there is nothing wrong." Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "We will set up camp and rest in another 10 li. Yes." After galloping for 10 li, they set up camp and rested in the jungle on the side of the official road. Lin Muyu fed some fodder to the warhorse and urged it to patrol around. "Wei Chou, let out the birds we are raising." "Okay." Under Wei Chou's order, the 10 imperial guards took the cage from the side of the warhorse. The moment the cage was opened, the black bird immediately flapped its wings and flew out. This kind of bird was different from messenger birds. They were domesticated for the purpose of war and could serve as scouts. Moreover, the sound of their flight was very quiet and not easy to be discovered. "We already have a 10-kilometer radius of detection. Is Sir still worried?" Wei Chou asked with a smile. Lin Muyu stood under a huge rock wall with a long sword in her hand. She rubbed the outside of her hand to keep out the cold. "After we left 5 Valleys City, something has been following us." "Ah." Wei Chou was stunned. "What is it that we did not discover? It doesn't look like a human." Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes and whispered, "It looks like a kind of wild beast. I have seen the footprints of that kind of beast many times in the snow. 3 palms, each palm print is in the shape of a diamond. Do you know what it is?" "Leopard wolf?" Wei Chou was shocked and said, "According to Sir's analysis, this kind of beast is the legendary leopard wolf. It is said that there are people in the Imperial Army who domesticate this kind of leopard wolf, just like taming hounds, but the leopard wolf is smaller and faster. More importantly, the leopard wolf's sense of smell is hundreds of times stronger than that of a hound, and it is very convenient to use it to track. Could it be that there are people in 5 Valleys City who domesticate leopard wolves?" Lin Muyu said lightly. "It's hard to say." Wei Chou frowned and said, "The 5 Valleys City can indeed be said to have a strong army and strong horses. Moreover, that Long Qianlin is also a peerless general talent. With him in the army, it might not be impossible to tame leopards and wolves. My lord, we might really have our eyes on them." Lin Muyu said lightly, "Order everyone to not take off their armor tonight. Sleep tight and be ready to attack at any time. Tie the warhorses to the side of the camp and don't go too far away. Once the scout birds send the news, everyone must prepare for battle. First, find out who the opponent is, and then fight if we can beat them. If we can't beat them, run. Our warhorses are all good horses in the western regions, we can definitely outrun them." "Yes." It was already late at night after they hurriedly finished the military meal. Lin Muyu did not sleep. She tied the warhorses to the side of the central tent and jumped on a high rock at the side of the camp. She reached out to sweep away the snow and lifted her cloak to cover her head. Her pair of clear eyes quietly looked into the depths of the forest in the snow. At the same time, she gradually spread out the spiritual pulse technique. With her current cultivation, she could roughly rely on the spiritual pulse technique to sense the movement within 5 miles, and perhaps it was more useful than the scout birds. After a day of running, she was slightly tired. She gradually closed her eyes and slowly took a nap on the huge rock with her long sword in her arms. After an unknown period of time, an extremely strong fluctuation suddenly came from the spiritual pulse technique. A large group of people with slightly stronger auras entered the detection radius of the spiritual pulse technique. Lin Muyu immediately opened her eyes and flipped down the rock. After she mounted her horse, she came to the camp and said in a low voice, "Everyone, get up. Someone is coming." Wei Chou quickly rushed out of the camp with his sword in hand and said, "My lord, the birds have not returned yet. There's no need to wait. Everyone, get on your horses and go to the ravine on the west side to prepare for an ambush." Yes. Everyone skillfully mounted their horses and went to the ambush point. The sound of the horses' hooves landing on the snow was not loud. Very soon, everyone hid and covered the mouths of the warhorses. Pairs of eyes in the snow looked into the distance, silently waiting for the visitors. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, a black bird landed on the back of a royal guard. This royal guard had learned how to communicate with scouting birds. After listening to the chirping of the bird, he turned and said, "My lord, there are nearly 500 people, but we can't confirm where they are from for the time being." Lin Muyu nodded. In fact, her spiritual pulse technique had already detected this group of people. There were more than 500 auras, and the strongest one was about the third heaven of the earth realm. There were dozens of people who were basically in the human realm. The rest were not cultivators and were just ordinary boors. However, with so many people moving together, it was obvious that they were not simple. "Don't make a sound. Control your auras and wait for my orders before acting," Lin Muyu said lightly. Yes. First, they had to determine who they were. There was no light in the snowy night. In the darkness, vague figures appeared on the forest path. All of them were riding on warhorses, but the hooves were obviously wrapped in cloth, so the sound of the hooves was very soft. This group of people also lit torches, and all of them were silent. They were much more cautious than the people from the House of Chivalry they had met before. Lin Muyu took a closer look, and under the faint light, she still saw the golden emblem on the neck of the leader. However, it was not the Jianghu Ranger, but a chess user. Sure enough, it was the people from the House of Chivalry again. However, this time, it should be the people from the Cangnan province's headquarters. With such a large number of people, and a chess user personally coming forward, Wei Chou turned to look at Lin Muyu, asking if they should act. Lin Muyu slowly opened her palm, and a golden light bloomed. The gourd marshal's soul had already come out of her body. She suddenly shouted, "Royal Guard, close your eyes." Hum. The golden gourd soared into the sky, and in the next moment, Lin Muyu activated the special ability of her marshal's soul, Light of Dawn. A dazzling light bloomed in the dark night, as if it was daytime. Such a strong light in a dark space was obviously not something that a normal person's eyes could withstand. In an instant, a large group of rangers were so blinded that they could not open their eyes, and were in a mess. Whoosh! A bunch of gourd vines broke out of the ground, and directly wrapped around the body of the chess user's warhorse. Lin Muyu raised her hand, and a small magic sonar blade silently flew out. The blade was enshrouded in a dense battle aura, and in the blink of an eye, a golden light flashed, and she became invisible. At the same time, she shouted, "Open your eyes, and release the arrows. Attack!" Chapter 208. Yu Yishur gripped his steel saber and stared at the air in front of him. He could feel the ripples of air being cut, but he couldn't see anything. He could only raise his saber in front of his chest to block the attack. He felt a sudden chill on his neck, and he felt as if his soul had been stripped from his body. He could no longer muster any strength. Puff! The little magic sonar saber revealed its true form after being stained with blood. It spun rapidly in the air, and the sky beast soul hidden in the saber quickly evaporated the blood. It became invisible again and slashed diagonally into the neck of another Jianghu ranger. Only the sound of the saber could be heard, but not seen. These cultivators didn't cultivate any secret arts like the spirit pulse technique, so they couldn't block the magic sonar saber's attack even if they could hear it. The little magic sonar saber killed 2 people in a row. One was Yu Yishir, and the other was Jin Zun. This was the first time the recast magic sonar saber was used, and it had already made a great contribution. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, arrows flew everywhere, and in an instant, dozens of rangers were killed or injured on the small path. However, they were still brave. Many of them raised their swords and rushed into the gully, fighting with the royal guards. Kill! The dragon spirit in Lin Muyu's hand fell into the crowd in a beautiful arc, killing more than 10 people in an instant. However, there were too many rangers, and the enemy had mobilized at least half of the main altar's men. For a moment, the 2 sides were in a stalemate. The royal guard's advantage was their strong individual combat strength. Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and the others all raised their weapons and killed in the crowd. The other 18 royal guards also did their best. Their martial souls shone in the forest, and at the same time, clusters of torches were lit, illuminating the surroundings and making the battle even more tragic. Both sides showed no mercy and fought with their lives on the line. Lin Muyu wielded her long sword as she galloped past. Her long sword smashed a shield into pieces and chopped off the ranger's arm. Instantly, the ranger howled in pain as he rolled on the ground. Losing an arm in an instant, the pain was unimaginable. At the same time, a royal guard fell to the ranger's messy swords. More than 100 rangers in the back took out their bows and arrows and started shooting from afar. In the blink of an eye, another 7 or 8 royal guards fell to the ground in pools of blood. Buzz! Lin Muyu opened her hand, and the golden wall of the gourd quickly expanded into a wall in front of everyone. The arrows collided with the wall of the gourd, but they could not penetrate it at all. Looking at the people behind her, Lin Muyu shouted, "Quickly clear the area and retreat." Yes! Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and the others fought the enemy with all their might. In just a short while, the 300-plus rangers behind them had all turned into corpses. However, it was clear that the royal guards had suffered heavy losses as well. Many of them were lying motionless on the snowy ground. With the golden wall of the gourd in hand, Lin Muyu shouted at the rangers who were shooting arrows in the distance, "We are the royal guards of Lanyan City. You have repeatedly attacked us. Are you really not afraid of death?" In the distance, a silver exalt ranger held a longbow in his hand and said with a cold expression, "You dogs of the Empire, you have killed so many of our brothers, and you still want to leave here alive?" Without saying a word, Lin Muyu opened her right hand and lightning raged. Suddenly, the dragon spirit sword broke through the air and pierced the neck of the silver exalt ranger like lightning. He wanted to continue speaking, but his Adam's apple had completely turned into a pile of minced meat. How could he speak? He fell to the ground with a roar like a wild beast. Lin Muyu raised her hand and caught the long sword that was flipped back to her. She said lightly, "All of you, scram, if you don't want to be killed." The group of Bronze Exalt Rangers and Iron Exalt Rangers looked at each other. They had already lost their composure. How would they dare to challenge the God of Slaughter, Lin Muyu? One by one, they raised their longbows and quickly turned and disappeared into the woods. "My lady." Wei Chou urged his horse forward. His face and battle robe were covered in blood. He said, "Do we chase after these traitors?" "No need." Lin Muyu put away the wall of the gourd and took a deep breath to stabilize her restless internal breath. She looked at the corpses on the ground and said, "After they failed their mission, they will soon come after us again. Let's leave quickly. We have already lost a lot of people. I don't want everyone to die here. Yes, break camp and hurry through the night." They hurriedly buried the bodies of their companions. The battle lasted less than 10 minutes, but 21 Imperial guards were killed, 11 were seriously injured, and 32 were lightly injured. Almost half of them were wounded. Only Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and a few others who were above the third heaven of Earth realm were unharmed. But this was enough to make Lin Muyu's heart ache. Although there were more than 7,000 Imperial guards in Lanyan City, too many of them had died in this battle, and they were all loyal and brave soldiers of the Eagle Nest camp. If one died, there would be one less. Even if they were replaced, they would only be new soldiers. Their combat ability could not be compared at all. In the early hours of the morning, the warhorses were snorting violently. Lin Muyu held the reins and kept moving forward at a high speed. They had to reach Lanyan City as soon as possible, or the House of Chivalry would not let them have an easy time. At this point, they could no longer rest for the night. After discussing with Wei Chou and Xiahou Sang, they set off at night. If they did not sleep for a day and a night, they would probably reach Lanyan City directly. Sure enough, the House of Chivalry did not have many horses, so it was impossible for them to use cavalry to chase and kill. In this way, they naturally could not catch up with Lin Muyu and the others. After a day and a night of running, several warhorses were so tired that they were foaming at the mouth. Fortunately, on the morning of the third day, they could see the outline of Lanyan City in the distance. But suddenly, the spiritual pulse technique once again sensed the dense aura of experts appearing on the road in front of them. Lin Muyu hurriedly raised his arm and shouted in a low voice, "Draw your swords and prepare for battle." Yes. Xiahou Sang pulled out the spear from the back of the horse, while Wei Chou took out the demon-devouring bow. It was always good to be able to kill a few people before the close combat. After bypassing a cluster of bushes, the aura appeared, but it was not the enemy, but the Imperial Guards led by Feng Jixing, Zhang Wei, Luo Lai, and others were camping on both sides of the road, waiting. "They're here." Zhang Wei laughed and said, "Lady Lin Muyu and the others have returned safely." Feng Jixing hurriedly mounted his horse and greeted them with a smile. Have you been all right?" Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "What happened, Brother Feng? Why are you waiting for us outside the city?" "It's a long story." Feng Jixing frowned and said, "Let's talk on the way." Yes. The Imperial Guards all mounted their horses and protected the group of Imperial Guards. Feng Jixing and Zhang Wei stood on either side of Lin Muyu to protect her. They all looked very serious. "What happened?" Lin Muyu asked. Feng Jixing said, "After His Majesty ordered the annihilation of the House of Chivalry, the local officials and troops did not do their job well. The House of Chivalry became more and more arrogant. 3 days ago, Chu Huayin was ordered to escort a batch of weapons back to Lanyan City from Cold Star City. On the way there, he was attacked by the House of Chivalry. The battle was very tragic. More than 300 Imperial Guards were killed, and even Chu Huayin himself was injured." Lin Muyu was stunned. "God. Brother Chu was injured? Who ambushed him? How could they be so strong that even someone like Brother Chu was injured?" Feng Jixing nodded. "According to the investigation, the ambushers were from the House of Chivalry in Earth Star Province. They sent a Grand Travel Agent, 3 Grand Travel Agents, and 7 Jin Zuns, a total of more than 2,500 people to participate in the battle. Chu Huayin brought 700 Imperial Guards with him. The heavy losses were expected, but old Chu was indeed very strong. The price of him being injured was that the Grand Travel Agent of the House of Chivalry was seriously injured. All 3 Grand Travel Agents were killed, and more than a dozen Jin Zun and Silver Venerable were also killed." As he spoke, Feng Jixing looked at Lin Muyu's expression and said, Were you also attacked along the way?" "Yes." Lin Muyu nodded slightly. "I was attacked once on the way there, and again on the way back. They were also from the House of Chivalry, but I didn't lose that many people. A day ago, 21 Imperial Guards were killed. They didn't send that many people, only about 500 in total. If they had sent more than 2,500 people, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to come back." Feng Jixing took a deep breath. "Damn, these bastards from the House of Chivalry are trying to slap His Majesty in the face. What do you mean? In the past 5 days, you and Old Chu weren't the only 2 troops marching on the official road. There were many other troops dispatched, but only the 2 of you were attacked. Moreover, you 2 are also newly conferred by His Majesty as one of the 4 heroes of Lan and Yen, one of the 4 generals of wind, rain, thunder, and lightning. The intention of the House of Chivalry is too obvious. Killing either you or old Chu will damage His Majesty's prestige. Lin Miyu clenched her teeth and said, the House of Chivalry is now openly challenging His Majesty. They are cursing His Majesty as a fatuous ruler and fabricating all kinds of evidence that His Majesty is a tyrant to confuse people. If we let them continue like this, I'm afraid His Majesty will lose the hearts of the people. Isn't that right? Feng Jixing nodded and said, this matter needs to be discussed at length. We will report to His Majesty in detail when we return to Zhe Tian Palace. Yes, how is Brother Chu's injury? Is it serious? It's all right. A few of his ribs are broken. I'm afraid he won't be able to fight for the next half a month. That's good. He can take half a month off and spend more time with Miss Xianxiang. Lin Muyu smiled and said, does Brother Feng also think that Brother Chu and Miss Xianxiang will be a couple? Of course. Feng Jixing raised his gaze and said, they are a perfect match. Chu Huayin is my brother. Of course, I hope that he can find happiness. Jinxiang is gentle and kind. She can make old Chu's heart feel at peace. Yes. Lin Muyu smiled and said, Brother Feng, you're not young anymore. Why haven't you thought about your marriage? Feng Jixing was stunned. He shook his head and laughed at himself. I, Feng Jixing, have been living on the edge of a knife all my life. It's better not to be a burden to others. Let's not talk about this. Let's go back to Zhe Tian Palace quickly. Yes, okay. You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.